I'll probably have to the front row.
Oh, do you share?
That's so hard. Yeah. Coming.
Very good.
How are you? Yeah, better show you. Oh yeah, we'll be there. What you already moved compared to
Yes. Where?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean,
Otherwise, I was having a hard time following until I went through it.
I know. Well, everybody's been good for me, except for now. Now
You say a few words, it's like that.
I smell it. Can't hold it. What's going on?
Yeah, somewhere in
We'll show the horns. Come get me tomorrow morning. Until I did that, I was.
The Vasquez is
Last year I actually took it off because we were trying to stand. This year with the short stuff.
I did. I changed clothes. Well, I don't know. It's like when you're in one set of clothes, you just have to change your clothes. Right? How are you, man? Yeah, I know.
When it's just the two of them. I started
I don't know what else to say. Just so you'll see.
No, they never even wanted this.
I don't know what these two were doing. They were going to show you and them too. I thought you were going to get some shields or something. I didn't know that. I didn't reason that yeah, just click and walk away.
That's what I did.
This is a baseball.
Who's going to get this for us? When you're
This was your Christmas rush start. Check a second. Well, we have a Christmas Day.
It's a close thing.
For your alarm system. I used to know your brother on Christmas Eve. This is even more than New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I'm neck and neck.
See that she
I need that. I'm never gonna explain it without it. And mortgages. She hasn't mentioned anything, so you just signed for lots for housing. I've been really busy, Paul, it's all been really good. There's so many positive things. There is.
And then all of the
So that's you.
Well, at least 90,000. But there's still a few things.
Yeah, I'm not acting out tonight.
Broken.
From US
Good evening, and thank everyone for coming to tonight's city council meeting. Today is November the 21st, 2017. The time is now 6 p.m. The regular meeting of the regular meeting of the city council will now come to order. Would you please stand for the pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Bernardo.
Here.
Fletcher. Here. Lopez.
Here.
Matei.
Here.
Miles.
Here.
Suarez. Here. Rico.
Here. Any changes to the agenda? I would like to actually take item 7D. I'm not sure if we have the two people for planning and zoning. Are they here yet? The two new. I saw Jackson outside of my store. They're not here. I was gonna move them up. No, they're not in the apartment. Oh, if they're not here, we'll just leave the agenda as it is. Okay. So, okay, motion to approve the agenda as written. Second?
second.
Roll call please on that.
Bernardo.
Yes.
Fletcher.
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei.
Yes.
Miles.
Yes.
Suarez. Yes. Rico.
Yes. Item 2, item 2A, Economic Development Report. Jonathan, before you get started, I just wanted to say thank you for your service to the city of Trinidad, and council, from my perspective, wishes you well in your future. Hopefully you'll have a good future ahead of you.
Thank you. We'll see you later.
So, we don't have all the preliminary numbers in because we're a little bit behind, and I told Cheryl that she could report those to you later. But I wanted to, one, before you had said, to say thank you to each of you for the last 2 years of indulging my crazy ideas and out-of-the-box thinking. And so it's been a privilege not only doing the things that I've enjoyed doing, but also representing the will of this council and working collaboratively with staff to implement those policies. So thank you. Tonight, we're going to go briefly over the economic development report. Last year, or earlier this year, we had presented to you the fact that we gained about $1.3 million in new sales in our downtown, over $20 million in new investment in our downtown, in an occupancy rate that has decreased from 61% in 2015 to now, as of last month, a downtown vacancy rate of 28%, which is unheard of in rural communities these days. Part of those is a result of business owners and focusing on entrepreneurial endeavors, and as well as focusing on youth outreach and the outdoor and recreational aspects of our community. This year we focused primarily not only sustaining those growths over the last year, but really focusing on our statewide and regional and nationwide approaches to establishing the identity of who Trinidad is. Later in the council meeting, you will hopefully do the second reading of the ordinance for the city seal. You've already approved the tourism brand of the Way Out West. And as you saw in the last council meeting, or 2 council meetings ago, the video that Flycam, who is a local business, did for us, kind of that 45-second spot of advertising. We posted on Facebook. This has got over 15,000 views now, and we're hoping that now we've reached the 10,000 view mark, Colorado Tourism will pick that up and share it for us, so we get more free publicity as we continue to go. This is one of the things that Raven, who is an excellent addition, and I really look forward to seeing what she can do for this community as well. She's got a bright future ahead of her, and I will say that personally, that is the best decision that I've made for the city of Trinidad in hiring Raven. She's done an amazing job, and I really look forward to the type of things that she's going to be able to do under Tara's tutelage. This is an ad that was done in Colorado Business Comes to Life. This is a magazine that Stephanie Copeland of OEDIT, or Office of Economic Development and International Trade, does on behalf of the state of Colorado per year. And I've got more, and I'll staff those. This is something that they give investors to the state of Colorado. And as you can see, the first page, or the first spread, is Colorado Springs, but then immediately is the city of Trinidad. We are the second page insert, so that's a huge value. That right there is normally $35,000 to do, but we spent $14,000 last year. Thanks to Ms. Copeland and her last year, Ms. Copeland's kind of push to get Trinidad more recognized. She was helpful in securing that valuable placement for us. So that right there is the type of stuff that the public doesn't see that the Office of Economic Development does. Oftentimes ED is behind closed doors, for better or for worse. A lot of these things the public doesn't know what we do. But these are the type of things that we work diligently on behalf of the city of Trinidad to really promote and focus that entrepreneurial and also investment endeavors for the state of Colorado and as well as our region. With those, and this is, if the public wants to see, it's on your screen. What we did was we really accentuated the distance driving time. We know that's one of our biggest hurdles, is the distance between us and a larger municipality. One of the things that I've been working on behalf of Mayor Rico is foreign direct trade zones. So it's where investment can come in and be tax-free for a certain period of time before it goes off to the greater region or international. While we don't qualify for that, we actually do qualify for a sub-regional zone, which is still just as beneficial for rural communities, and we've actually reached out and we've got that ball rolling. The other thing that not a lot of people know is we have the second most competitive electric rates in southeastern Colorado. And we did that comparatively over the 3 sectors of residential, commercial, and industrial. That's a play of data, I know. But we also have one of the lowest tax rates in southeastern Colorado by number 1. And then we have the number 1 most businesses in southeastern Colorado at 864 compared to our nearest competitor of La Junta, which is 662. With that, and under council's direction, we've been able to develop competitive incentives, which you saw the first draft last council, which Mr. Sun will continue with that under your direction to see what is really truly the best meets and needs for this community. We have small business programs, which is the business rental assistance, the facade program, and the ADA access program. And then we also have prime locations. Not a lot of communities, and this is something that the mayor is working on as well with Mr. Sun, which is the Southwest Chief. We have prime locations in which we can access to a larger, greater population areas. But things that a lot of communities don't do is they don't have those competitive tax brackets, those competitive tax incentives. And one of those things is the Rural Jumpstart program. While we haven't been able to capitalize completely off that program, we've been able to be inspired by what that program offers and tailor our money to what we can offer the community in general. Some of those, and this is something that Raven did as well, is all the programs that our community offers currently, both local and statewide incentives. Now that Urban Renewal has their seed money, they'll be able to work with Mr. Son on accessing those type of developments with sales tax TIF or property tax TIF. We have also small business programs with the SBA, and good thing we have an advocate of that in our city manager. The SBA has a great outreach program out of Pueblo and Colorado Springs. We've met twice with them over the last 2 months. They're interested in possibly helping the community establish an SBDC here part-time. And one thing that I was working on, and we have support in city management, is what is called a co-working space. And a co-working space is something that entrepreneurs use when they're traveling. High-speed internet, that's not necessarily an internet-based cafe or what they used to call incubators, but it's a co-working space where you just pay a monthly fee or a one-day user fee. And luckily with Ms. Copeland, the director of OEDIT, there's actual grant programs that we can have to access that. And, you know, the rumor was it was the Johns building. Well, the Johns building was one of many locations we were looking at. We just have to make sure it's the best possible fiscal impact for not only city council, but the community as large. And that's not been decided yet. It's just a whole.
How many of these, and how are they being distributed, this particular benefit?
So we print those off as needed. Right now we have about 100. Raven, we use Cedar Street printing, so they're pretty much available in 2 days. We don't have to worry about printing. But the way we do those is we put those in our informational packets. So we have those books. They're slid into where our advertisement page is, but then we also have other applicant programs of our website, which is developtrinidad.com.
Tara, I'm not sure you might know this. Would it be possible to give some of these to the OEDI team to ever place them in their office or whatever?
Absolutely.
I think that would be a good thing because all the
Sure.
information is on the backside.
Yes, sir.
And that's something that they've been very willing to work with us on behalf of that. Furthermore, with that, you know, our prime locations in
We've got nothing on this side.
Here, just hold on. We're done. Just give it a second. It's like all of us, it needs a moment.
And another thing that we've worked on behind the scenes is developtrinidad.com.
Good evening, Monica.
Good evening.
John, while you're waiting for this to come back on, I just mentioned, I know it's not economic development, but I went to Durango with some friends. We opened up the True West magazine. The inside flap was Trinidad. It was great, and the new logo looked great.
So I'm probably going to get, and please don't report it just yet if you don't mind. Okay? But last year, you know how we went from True West of number 7. This year we're number 3.
Oh.
So we don't report that just yet because I'm not supposed to say anything. But I really want to be the one that said it.
It's in the record now.
Somebody's calling to say not to record it.
Are you started?
That's fine. Mine's on the desktop.
Yeah, this is good. We look back at
So it's technical difficulties. So to be cognizant of time, I'll do it without the PowerPoint. The one thing, and I've mentioned briefly, is a 20% increase in restaurant sales. And this is comparing quarter 1, 2, and 3 with quarter 1, 2, and 3 this year as of last year. 5% increase in our downtown retail. And then for the first time, and the Chronicle reported it, is this is the first year we've had population growth in 10 years, since 2010. That's not going to be there again, is it?
I have to change the channel so back to things, I have to shut it off.
Maybe we could just, if we can just have that one, we'll be fine.
Let's try it.
Yeah, come on.
She went for a hammer.
Well, algae means life's good, you know. I feel like I'm standing in front of strawberry fields.
So that one's the only TV working, so if you'll look up there.
Difficult.
Yeah, sorry. This is the Trinidad Economic Development. It's just right there.
Okay, I'm just gonna leave that one. I have to shut it all off to actually bring it back.
So this is something that we've worked on behind the scenes that have been used on behalf of the city of Trinidad. As you notice, it still has the same look, feel of the municipal website. That was one requirement that Mr. England had before we did all this, was that it had to match the municipal website, which is good. But certain things that this site entails is actual properties or featured properties. Right now, that's out there. And then, our featured properties, and we update these weekly so we don't, pick a specific property owner that we focus on. We update this weekly. Right now we have 419 West Main Street and 135 East Main Street. And right down here are real estate partners, and it goes directly into those websites. We have our major projects, Art Space, the Hilton Hotel, and then we have do business here in our incentives. And this is where you as council or our potential businesses can go to get a sampling of what not only we offer, but what our state and community offers as well. For example, Jumpstart takes you directly to the state website, but then, if you want to focus more on Rural Jumpstart, it has its own website here, and it tells you a list of incentives and benefits. But this is, the new age of how we promote our community: Facebook, and internet, and TV. And setting up tourism, they will be doing their new 2018 visitors guide, which was well received last year, but they'll also be doing their own visitors website next year as well. For both the community and for council, you can pick up the visitors guides anywhere, but if you have any additions to make, don't hesitate to make those additions, because it was the first edition. We don't know everything that went on in the community, nor do I know every piece of information that the community has to offer. So we're updating that as we go. And then finally, ED awarded Studio 6 with the wayfinding signage design in the interstate sign design as well. So you'll have those probably by the end of next summer. And then potential implementation in 2019 based on the capital improvement plan that you guys laid forward in early summer. But in closing, it's been fun, and I really appreciate the opportunity to work with great staff, great colleagues, and also a good community.
Thank you.
You want me to turn it off?
Just turn it off. Yeah. I'll reset it.
on to item 3, petition for communication, oral and written. Ms. Paul Zell. And keep in mind, you have 5 minutes.
Yes, probably, were you all able to read this and understand what this was about? Okay? Why I am asking you to consider doing a letter or a resolution is, and it really ties in with what he's just been doing. Our community's trying to lift herself up and grow and become more economically sound, and also to attract tourists. And one of the things that this community is doing is restoring the old buildings downtown, preserving them, bringing them up. This section here, if it stays in the Department of Interior appropriations bill, individuals or communities or 501(c)(3) groups or entrepreneurs would not be able to apply for grants or loans from the federal government that have to do with heritage sites, have to do with historic districts, and downtown Trinidad is a historic district. This would also affect Highway of Legends in the sense when they, work that they do in preservation. Yeah, it's bad. There's no way around it. It's cutting off an arm that feeds the area. Even for entrepreneurs who want to come and invest in the community and might want to do a governmental loan, they'll put their personal seed money down and then apply for a grant or loan. And if it's for on a historical building, it's not going to happen. And then he included river canals and everything. That affects the Purgatory River. That affects your river walk, that you're trying to get going. And he explicitly lists all the counties. So I guess in this 5 minutes, you have any questions about it?
We don't ask questions from the
Okay.
communications.
Basically, I would encourage you to get a letter or a resolution passed as soon as possible, because basically this appropriations bill will more than likely be voted on in the Senate this next week when they return starting the 27th. Because see, they have a deadline of December 8th to come up with a budget or a continuing resolution to keep the federal government open. And yesterday, the Senate Appropriations Committee did release what they're going to be marking up. And when they mark it up, then it goes to the full floor. If it gets passed there, then there's a conference committee meeting between the House and the Senate, and they come to a happy medium of what will be in the bill. The House version already passed, so this section is in the House version. It is not in the Senate version right now, when I read through it yesterday, but that's because Bennett's office, and them have been looking at it, working at it. So the key is to get it removed from the House side, and the bill get passed without it in it. If not, it's gonna cut off a good funding source for the southeastern Colorado. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
I think what we want to do with this, just for council, is I think we need to get a full explanation. She's given us that side of it, and I think what we'd like to get is maybe Erica Chavez from Congressman Buck's office down here, if we can, and to give us a full explanation on this, because I think that we need to get a full understanding before we actually put a resolution together, because because like I said, it's still got to go to the Senate for clearance and all that stuff, so I'm not sure what your thoughts are, but that'd be my recommendation.
Do we have time for that?
That's what
December 8th is, you can put a December 8th
For the Congressional
timeline.
side, probably not. For the Senate, That's the big question.
Would it be
That's
possible to
the
present
date for the
bill and
Senate.
we could read it ourselves?
February, December 8th is the Senate date.
The bill's here and
Yeah, cause see, that's the end of the year. Yeah, it's December 8th is the cutoff date of this stuff.
or Kathy Garcia.
Do you think, Tara, that we could maybe, possibly get somebody here next week on this?
I think we can certainly invite Ms. Erica Chavez. She's based out of Castle Rock down and see if she can come next week.
One of this, I'll get together with you and maybe try to plan something possibly next week sometime.
Well, shall I have that with a phone call? I mean, since time seems to be of the essence.
About it is to get everybody here in time, all of us to meet.
Okay, but as a fallback, yeah.
Now, as a fallback, yeah.
Yeah.
You might check and see if you could get Buck down here this week. They're all on state work supposedly and the holiday.
So,
So he's home in the state
are
supposedly.
you available tomorrow, Tara? You
I'm
gonna work?
emailing her right now, absolutely.
Kathy Garcia is also Howard Gardner's regional director. Do you know that, Jeff?
Yeah,
She's familiar with us, isn't she, Kathy?
Yes, yes.
I might throw out to you, our state representative, Kimmy Lewis, that represents this area state level. When she found out about it, she immediately sent Bennett's office an email asking them to try and get it removed from the bill because it was not good for southeastern Colorado.
She's here.
How?
Let's y'all get with Tara tomorrow, let's try to iron this out.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other petitions? Or are we ready?
Thanks, Paul.
I understand your writing on the second. There's a second. Is there a Henry? Somebody
Mayor, I
else?
think that's
Eric.
Harry Patel regarding the liquor license hearing, so he has to be heard under the hearing.
Right, okay. So we'll bypass that. Pass that down. Item 4, consent agenda. Item A, approval of the regular meeting minutes of November 8th, 2017. Item B, appointment of Mike Valentine, Utilities Director for the ARPA, to fill the unexpired term of Robert Fabic, which will expire on 12/31/2019.
Congratulations.
Appointment of Greg Sund as the voting TPR member and Tara Marshall and Tom Beach as alternative voting members. And item D, approval of security services agreement with school district number 1. And there was a minor change in some of the language, and I'll read that, nothing real drastic, but it never addressed this language, which was item 11 on that, and I'll read that for your information. That's under outstanding debts to be forgiven. It says Trinidad School District number 1 agrees to forgive the final $50,000 payment due by the city to the school district for the purchase of Rice School Building. The city consequently forgives school district number 1 for payment due for services rendered by the city during the 2016-17 school year, to wit, the assignment of a school resource officer dedicated to school district number 1. So there's a couple of minor changes in there. Item E, approval of the bills. And item F, approval of payroll November the 18th, 2017 through December the 1st, 2017. Motion to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion?
Second?
Nothing's up my head. Let's see. Call a roll, please.
Donato,
Yes.
Fletcher.
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles.
Yes.
Horace.
Yes, except for A, as I wasn't here.
Rico.
Yes. Item 5, public hearings. 5A, new lodging and entertainment liquor license application filed by Image Hospitality LLC, doing business as Quality Inn at 3125 Cookwood Drive. Would Mr. Patel, or
Yes, that's
come forward, please?
Good evening, everybody.
Hearing is now open. Would you want to swear in Mr. Patel?
Please raise your hand.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Good evening, Mr. Patel.
Thank you.
No, sir, come back. I'm sorry, I just have to ask you a few questions.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that's right. Nice try. And good evening, Mr. Patel. You and I know each other, and I'm going to ask you a few questions. And if you don't understand me, please let me know. Okay. And if anyone doesn't understand an answer given by Mr. Patel, please let him know. Anyway, so Mr. Patel, I want to begin by asking you, sir. You are representing here tonight Image Hospitality, doing business as the Quality Inn.
Yes.
Okay, and that's at 3125 Topol Drive.
Yes.
Okay, would you explain to council, if you would please, you're here applying for a liquor license conversion, correct?
Yes.
Meaning going from one type to another?
Yes.
And that's an existing hotel and restaurant liquor license, and you're seeking to go to a lodging and entertainment license?
Yes.
And would you tell us, if you would please, sir, why you're doing that?
Because I cannot I hire the people for the restaurant, for the food, because the before license is food with the liquor, and I cannot open the restaurant for the bar, so then I got see.
If I could, is it so that you have less of a food sales requirement?
Yeah.
Okay, you understand with your hotel and restaurant liquor license, you have to have, I believe it's 25% of your sales from food,
Yeah.
and you don't have to have that with this type of liquor license?
No.
Okay, and that's why you're seeking to convert the
To make
liquor
it
license?
separate, yes.
Okay. And sir, if I could please, how long have you had a hotel and restaurant liquor license at that address?
That was last 2010 August.
So about 7 years?
7 years, yes.
And I should ask you, sir, have you had any violations on that liquor license?
Well, before I got one time, the people come in, they check me out there, and they say you has to be, if you want to open the bar, you have to feed the food, and then we stop that.
Okay. So, did you have a liquor license violation?
No, not like that kind of violation.
Okay, okay. So 7 years and everything has gone well.
Yeah.
Okay, now I want to ask you, sir, you have a partner in this enterprise, an individual I believe by the name of Bakul Songvi.
Yes.
Did I pronounce that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's a 50% owner?
Yes.
Okay, so I understand he's not here this evening, but you're here for him?
Yes.
Okay, and has he always been a 50%
Yes.
partner and owner? Okay, and he's 50% of the corporation, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and 50% owner.
Yes.
So, Mr. Patel, you and he understand the liquor licensing laws in the state of Colorado
Yeah.
and in the city of Trinidad, and you understand your requirements and what you have to do, okay, and you pass the background checks. Okay, so, sir, if I could please, did you have occasion to have a petition circulated in this matter?
Yeah, I did that.
Okay. Were you the petition circulator?
Yeah, I'm going myself, and I just. Yeah.
Okay. And you obtained the signatures, is that correct? I believe there were 53 signatures, 41 were valid, but I mean from here, from the city of Trinidad, but all were in favor, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, no one opposed or seeking a license conversion, is that correct? Okay, so, Mayor, council members, I have no further questions. I would remind you that the boundaries are the boundaries of the city of Trinidad, and the standard is the needs of the neighborhood are not being met in considering a new license or a license conversion. And as Ms. Garrett has accurately indicated in the cover sheet of the council communication, the application for a conversion of a liquor license is treated as a new liquor license. I submit Mr. Patel for any questions you may have.
Okay, you have any questions?
I do not. I have a comment, but I'll leave it for later.
Okay.
So it'll be a bar only, no restaurant,
No.
no food, okay.
No, sir. No questions?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience to speak for the license or against the license? Hearing is closed. I imagine there's no reason for an executive session. Motion to approve the liquor license application by Hospitality. So moved. Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes,
You got a
I
comment?
think, again, I think it's an opportunity for us to support Mr. Patel's business endeavors as he tries to make his business strong and viable. And I believe we have a fiduciary responsibility to support his efforts.
Any other discussion? Call the vote, please.
Bernardo,
Yes.
Fletcher,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Torres. Yes. Rico.
Yes. Item B, new retail open hearing for new retail marijuana store license application filed PC Holdings Incorporated doing business as Canna City at 417 North Commercial Street. Hearing is now open. Mr. Shaw, would you please come forward? And you've already done that. Would you want to swear him in, please?
Whole truth and nothing but the truth.
May I?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
You are Ryan Shaw.
Yes.
And Mr. Shaw, you're representing the applicant this evening, but you're the 100% owner of PC Holdings Inc., doing business as Canna City?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. This is an application for a retail marijuana store license, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Shaw, as I alluded to, you, sir, are the 100% owner, is that correct?
Correct.
And you're the president, I know, I believe the 100% shareholder, but you're the owner and operator of this proposed
Buck
business.
stops with me.
All right, thank you, sir. And so we're clear, the address is 417 North Commercial Street
Correct.
in Trinidad. Sir, can you tell us, if you would please, do you own any other marijuana licenses in the state of Colorado?
I am the 100% owner of Canna Source, located in Colorado City in Pueblo County.
Okay, so you have two other businesses?
I have one other business as a retail cultivation, and this will be a retail dispensary. So those two will work very closely together.
Okay, so you have one other business?
Correct.
How long have you been in business with the other enterprise?
We've been licensed for about 16 months, and we have been in sales since February of this year.
Okay, and any problems with that license, any difficulties?
Yesterday, I'm 100% on time with all tax payments, and all of my compliance regulations have all been complied with.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Shaw, if you would please, your location, how many square feet is at that location? How big is your business?
I'd have to look at the plans, give you an exact number. My guess is about 800.
Okay, 800 square feet there?
Correct.
And sir, how many people do you hope to employ if you're approved for your license?
Well, to be conservative, we're going to start with 6, and as demand increases, we can hire from there.
Okay, so I want to ask you, I note that the conditional use permit was granted by Planning and Zoning on January 8th, 2016. You were not the applicant then, correct?
Correct, and the applicants, I believe, were Trinidad Holdings Corp., which is Sean Sheridan and Chris Elkins, who I've been working with even in attempts back in Pueblo County. So the fact that it materialized as our business matured and we were able to is with the same group that I've had other relationships with for years.
Okay, in fact, Trinidad Holdings Company, LLC, is your landlord, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you, I just want to say, I saw the letter from Ms. Marshall to your predecessor in interest, but you understand the condition, or the requirements of your conditional use.
Correct. There were some stipulations with outfitting that facility beyond the normal expectations of a retail business in Trinidad.
Okay, and you understand you have to comply not only with that, but also the
Regulations.
exactly, and also of course the local retail marijuana code, the state retail marijuana code.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been working very close with Audra, who's been phenomenal. And before we open, I've multiple times asked some of the same questions just to make sure that we have full compliance before we go ahead and make our first sale and do anything, that's out of compliance within, not just the state, but also any local customized regulations.
Okay, thank you. And you understand, sir, while you've been dealing with Ms. Garrett, and I'm sure probably others, if you're approved for this license, you have an ongoing obligation to continue to cooperate with everybody involved in the city, the chief of police, the fire chief, the city attorney, city manager, Ms. Garrison. You have an ongoing obligation.
Yeah, there's definitely 4 different levels of inspections that we need to pass. We've already passed some, and we're continuing that process throughout getting this done tonight. We will, press on making sure that every regulation is complied with. And, we understand that you have the right to change some of these regulations very quickly, legally. So we do everything we can to make sure that both our compliance in Pueblo County as well as here in the city of Trinidad are 100% compliant.
Okay, thank you. Now, sir, do I understand, do you have your conditional state license for this address already?
I actually have been granted the state license, and I have that here for this address already.
Okay. You understand that if you're approved, there are 2 separate licenses, and you're responsible for both maintaining and renewing the state license and the local license as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I could, your lease is a 3-year lease effective May 19th of this year, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I won't specify the amount of rent, that's clearly reflected in there. You are personally guaranteeing that lease agreement. You understand that, sir?
Correct.
Okay. And you passed the background checks, you submitted the background checks, and you passed those. Is there anyone else that has a financial interest in your business?
There is no other interests that have financial interests. I would love to do profit sharing with my in-town and my local managers, but that's another process for later on, and that's something that I may be hopeful for. At present, there is no other interest in the business except for my own.
And you understand if you do take on any financial backers, you may need to disclose those.
Well, I have no expectation of additional financial interests. I just, I intend to have my team compensated. That's just something that I legally have to do with the marijuana enforcement division as well.
Okay, thank you. So, sir, you don't have your certificate of occupancy yet, do you?
I do not have my certificate of occupancy.
When do you hope to have that?
Well, as it turns out, I am waiting. I have to change one toilet from one wall to the other, and I have to move a wall. It's going to end up being about $18,000, and I'm waiting on an individual by the name of Dan Weed to give me specifications and feedback whether I need drinking fountains and some other things. I called him recently. We're working through these stipulations, but as soon as feasibly possible while being fully compliant.
Okay. We're familiar with the name Dan Weed here in the city. So, okay.
Sounds like fun.
Yes, right, absolutely. So, sir, again, you understand you're required to have a familiarity with the state and local codes. That's a yes.
Yes.
Okay, you're completely responsible for your business and the operation thereof.
Correct.
You understand, sir, that you can't own or possess any marijuana product until you have your license in hand.
Correct, including the CO.
Okay, and you can't, I don't believe you can get the license until you have the CO, and the license I don't believe will be issued by my colleagues until you have a certificate of occupancy.
Correct.
Okay, and sir, you understand, and I'm about done asking you questions, but at any point in time, the federal government could reconsider their allowing marijuana, a lot of things that could happen that would make it, again, illegal to sell retail marijuana in the state of Colorado. Okay.
Yep.
It looked like you were going to say something else. Were you going to say something?
I launched a video chat social network in Japan. I had a 9.1 earthquake, 90-foot tsunami, and triple nuclear meltdown. Take me down before. Federal government, I mean, we've been in business for years.
Good for you. So, and then also just in terms of city utilities, and I know you're not cultivating, but if there's any kind of utility shortage or austerity, marijuana businesses are probably be the first ones to be cut off. You understand that?
Yeah, so we're a retail store only. If we absolutely need to lose all of our electricity, then I can figure out some other alternative to that. So.
Okay. And then last question or two, sir, and that is ongoing. You're going to have many obligations to the city, but one of them now is you're going to have certain reports that you're going to need to turn over so that we can keep track of your product? And you were saying you have to cooperate in all respects regarding that.
Yeah, so we're currently doing that with our other operation. I have 18 employees up in Colorado City, and we do monthly reporting for the Pueblo County. And additionally, I've hired a compliance manager who managed a chain of, I think it's 9 stores in Colorado in the marijuana industry. So compliance is something that we have competency in.
Okay. And is that Colorado City location you're going to be cultivating for your store here?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. I have no further questions, council members.
Question for council, Mr. Bernardo. Ms. Torres? Sure, nothing.
So the product's gonna come from Colorado City grow?
Correct.
Mr. Matei?
The application falls within constraints of the time limits for our cap.
It does, yes, sir. It does. Yes.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience to speak for the application or against the application? If none, meeting's closed. There's no reason for executive session. Motion to approve the license.
So moved.
Second?
Any other discussion? Call vote, please.
Bernardo,
Not until that CO is complete, I say no.
Fletcher,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Gotta read the findings, Mr. Matei?
Where are they?
You're there.
Who testified?
He is
Brian Shaw.
Ron Shaw, thank you.
Say again? I don't know.
Ryan Shaw.
This matter came on for hearing on the application of PC Holdings Incorporated doing business as Kansas City, 417 North Commercial Street in Trinidad, Colorado, for a retail marijuana store license before the City Council of the City of Trinidad, Colorado, acting in its capacity as the local licensing authority on November 21st, 2017, in the City Council chambers in City Hall. The City Council, having reviewed the application and supporting documents, reports by the city clerk and other city staff, evidence at the hearing, and testimony taken during this first hearing, makes the following findings. Number 1, the application is complete and signed by the applicant, and the applicant has paid the appropriate application and license fees. Number 2, the application appears to be in substantial compliance with all the requirements of Article 11, Chapter 14 of the Trinidad Municipal Code. The applicant has testified to their willingness to comply with any and all areas of said article whereby compliance at this time cannot be fully attained or substantiated. Number 3, according to the testimony of the application does not contain any material misrepresentations. Item number 4, the proposed marijuana business complies with the applicable zoning regulations. The City Council hereby finds that based on the testimony of the applicant, the building in which the proposed marijuana business will be located will conform to the Trinidad City codes, including the zoning code and the international codes adopted by the city. Number 5, Ryan Shaw testified in favor of granting the license. No other persons testified in favor of or in opposition to granting the license. Number 6, the applicant, through the facts and evidence adduced as a result of the city's investigation and testimony provided, has made a prima facie showing that the applicant owner is of good moral character, and any employees of this entity will likewise be of good moral character. Item number 7, according to the city clerk's report, there are currently 66 medical and retail marijuana licenses overall approved by the City of Trinidad with 25 ownerships and 33 addresses. Item number 8, based on the evidence presented at the hearing and the investigative materials provided for the hearing, the City Council finds that the location of the business is appropriate, that the applicant is of satisfactory moral character, and that there is a willingness by the applicant to fully cooperate with the officials of the city in the operation of this business. Therefore, the City Council of the City of Trinidad, Colorado, as the local marijuana licensing authority, hereby approves and grants a retail marijuana store license at 417 North Commercial in Trinidad, Colorado. The issuance of said license shall be withheld until a certificate of occupancy is issued by the building official and upon absolute confirmation of compliance with all the codes adopted by the City of Trinidad. The licensee is not permitted to possess product in advance of the license being issued.
That's it? Okay, thank you. Item C, public hearing, proposed zone classification amendment of property located on lots 1 and 2, block 17, CP Treats addition to the city of Trinidad, Colorado, from transitional neighborhood services to transitional community commercial. Jeff Campbell was at the southeast corner of Arizona Avenue and East Kansas Street. Hearing is now open.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Tara Marshall. I'm the Development Services Director for the City of Trinidad, and I will be providing the findings, the decision, and the recommendation of the Planning, Zoning, and Variance Commission regarding this matter. The Planning, Zoning, and Variance Commission held a public hearing on Tuesday, October 10th, 2017 to review the application filed by Jeff Campbell requesting rezoning. The Planning, Zoning, and Variance Commission found that the subject property is located on the southeast corner of Arizona Avenue and East Kansas Street and was formerly known as the Lava Yoga Studio. The Commission found that the property is currently zoned Transitional Neighborhood Services and that Mr. Campbell was requesting rezoning to Transitional Community Commercial. Mr. Campbell presented testimony at the hearing that the business name would be known as 828 Consignment Auto Sales. He provided a description of a business plan that laid out the operations regarding a new business model, which was to offer a place where people could bring used vehicles and through consignment they could sell them to owners. The Planning, Zoning, and Variance Commission found that the business plan was solid and presented by the applicant in a thoughtful manner. The applicant also indicated to the Commission that he proposed to rehabilitate the building back to its original purpose, the condition reflective of its original purpose, which was a 1940s Gulf gasoline station. In considering the criteria for rezoning, the Planning and Zoning and Variance Commission had to find whether the property was A, zoned in error, B, if the area was changing to a degree that zoning is required, or C, that the community service was the applicant's intention. The Commission found the second criteria to be true, that the area regarding the location of the subject property is changing to a degree that rezoning is required. Many of the neighboring businesses are already commercial in nature, and several of them have been rezoned community commercial. There is a liquor store across the street. The property where JR's used to have its convenience store is also located in that area. The next criteria found by the Planning, Zoning, and Variance Commission is that the rezoning is in line with the comprehensive plan, that the area that is where the subject property is located is indicated in the new comprehensive plan to be community commercial in nature. And the last criteria is that public interest has been met. Based on the applicant's business plan that was placed forward, the use of the building would be consistent with other retail and community commercial uses within the area, and that the public interest was met by taking the closing of Lava Yoga Studio and repurposing the business to be another business that provided to the city's tax base. And on October 10th, in considering all of these criteria and findings, the Planning, Zoning, and Variance Commission voted unanimously to approve and recommend the rezoning of the property from transitional neighborhood services to transitional community commercial, and bring forward that recommendation to council. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from Mr. Marshall?
No, no.
I believe the applicant's here and can speak more to the business plan. Thanks.
Mr. Campbell, could you swear in Mr. Campbell, please? Les, do you have any questions for him?
Mayor, I don't. I would suggest just council asking questions of Mr. Campbell, especially since he's here for the business plan right now.
Mr. Campbell, you have apparently some experience in rehabilitating vehicles.
I need to taller.
You do look taller now. Speak to your experience in rehabilitating vehicles.
Yes, I have over the years refurbished numerous vintage travel trailers. My wife and I are up to about a dozen from the 1950s, 1960s canned ham types. There's 2 of them behind buckets right now. And a number of vehicles from 1960s Jeep Wagoneers to Jeepster Commandos, as well as some other vehicles, 1954 Ford F-100s, et cetera, et cetera. So the list kind of goes on, and you know, it's kind of a passion.
I'm of the opinion that you will deal with whatever is brought to you for consignment. You're not necessarily dealing with a particular age or model or make.
Well, very much not so. Very much, yeah. No, we've actually been approached already by both collectors of unique cars to sell both locally or online or take to auction for them. A local contractor has asked us to get rid of some surplus work vehicles for him as well. And then there's some other folks down in Raton who have reached out to us as well. So we're confident that the source is going to really kind of spider out into the community, which was really the goal. You know, the consignment model, while it won't be the exclusive way in which we have cars on the lot, it's going to be the predominant model by which we want to move and build forward, largely in part because of safety, you know, quite frankly.
I'm being somewhat familiar with that area. There's a garage attached as part of the building, or has that been closed?
Yeah, no,
Will you use it?
We will not. We will not. We will be partnering with Trinidad State Junior College as well as J&M Auto for basically what I call a report card. So if somebody brings us a car that they would like to consign so that we know and we're comfortable with what we're bringing in for quality of inventory and what we're selling for quality of inventory, it's going to go to one of those 2 entities for a report card. So they'll do, you know, emissions testing on it, they'll do other things on it that they can electronically, and then bring that back to us. That is going to be a split cost between ourselves and the person bringing the car, so that we can say, this meets our criteria. We're not going to be a place that basically gets dumped on for poor cars.
Understood. That's my fear. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fletcher.
I just want to say thank you for your faith in the community. You're opening a second business. Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
I think he asked my question. I only had concern about if you had any oil spillages and things like that. If you were just, but it sounds like you're not going to be doing any of the body work or, mechanical work.
No, we'll be doing none of that. We won't even be doing our detailing on site. I mean, we might do some armor all and stuff like that, but there's a community or local business around the corner that has a car wash right there. So we have car wash facilities there, so we won't be generating, you know, excess water or anything like that on the site.
Okay, that's my only question.
No questions.
Any questions?
I have one more.
Right.
How many vehicles do you anticipate displaying?
I believe we're approved for 12 to 15 in that neighborhood. We have room inside the building that we can probably display, I think comfortably 4, depends on the nature and size of the car, of course, and then the apron out front.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know it's nice to see that you're refurbishing that building kind of back to its original, the way it was originally.
It's a great building.
And that's going to be attractive, I think, and it ties into the historical value that we're trying to do in the community. So I think that would be
And all of our signage is going to basically be reflective of the 1940s, 1950s area Gulf logo. So the 828, and you know, all of it's going to be very, very reflective of that. So when you cursory drive by, the idea is that it's going to get there, including some gas pumps.
I just don't see you're going to have enough space there eventually. So
that's a good problem.
I think that's.
But you know, to be honest with you, we're going into this thing looking to fill a niche. You know, the average used car price, or excuse me, average new car price this year is $34,950. The average used cars price through May is about $11,400. And I'm very comfortable and very confident that that sector, if you will, that financial sector, is underserved here in Trinidad, and our goal is to kind of make that work.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone in the audience to speak for the zone classification amendment? Anyone to speak against? Hearing is closed.
Okay, first reading of an ordinance amending the zone classification of property located in lots 1, 2, block 17, CP Treats addition to the city of Trinidad, Colorado from transitional neighborhood to transitional community commercial, and setting a hearing date of said for consideration of said ordinance to December the 5th. Would that be correct? Okay. Need someone to introduce, please?
I will.
Would you please read the ordinance?
An ordinance amending the zone classification of property located on lots 1 and 2, block 17, CP Treats addition of the city of Trinidad, Colorado from transitional neighborhood services to transitional community commercial. Whereas Jeff Campbell has made application to the City Planning, Zoning, and Variance Commission and the City Council of the City of Trinidad, Colorado for a change in zoning classification of the following described property. Lots 1 and 2, block 17, CP Treats addition to the City of Trinidad containing .10 acres. Whereas all notices have been posted pursuant to law, and whereas a public hearing has been held by the City Council on application for a change in zoning classification, and whereas the City Council of the City of Trinidad, Colorado finds the proposed change in zoning classification of the above described property does not materially alter the city's zoning ordinance articles 4, 5, and 6 of chapter 14 planning and zoning, and is in keeping with the comprehensive plan for the regulation of land uses within the City of Trinidad, Colorado. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Trinidad, Colorado to 1. The zoning map of the City of Trinidad is hereby amended by changing the zone classification of the above described property from the existing transitional neighborhood services to transitional community commercial. 2. This zone change is made pursuant to Articles 4, 5, and 6 of Chapter 14 Planning and Zoning of the Code of the Ordinances of the City of Trinidad, Colorado. Introduced by Councilmember Matei, Read and ordered published this 21st day of November 2017.
Thank you. Motion to approve the first reading. So moved. Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the vote, please.
Bernardo?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Torres? Yes. Rico?
Yes. Item 6A, public hearing for consideration of an ordinance putting the new city seal for the city of Trinidad, Colorado. Hearing is now open. Anything? Anything?
No, got your shirts. But yes, council, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone in the audience to speak for or against the new seal? Not? It is closed. Let's finish distributing. Thank you. These are nice. Yep, two.
Oh, I picked up the wrong ones. I'll get you other two here in a second.
That was a stupid question.
Well, we got, because we were right close to hearing. We'll bring it up if you want on the second reading. Okay. Second reading of an ordinance approving new city seal for the city of Trinidad, Colorado.
An ordinance approving a new city seal for the City of Trinidad, Colorado.
That was simple. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Discussion.
Do we need a second?
We've got a second already.
No, just
You want to do a second?
second.
All right.
This takes place.
Yes.
It's a dumb question, I know.
Well,
It's a
no,
dumb-
it isn't. What about the Fisher Peak thing? It's all gone. This,
This has Fisher's Peak outline.
thank you.
It's an outline. Remember we added that on?
That's your outline.
Not my size though. We'll talk later.
Oh, I've got plenty back there. I just didn't know.
Any other discussion?
So this will no longer be used.
The horses did.
I like that.
And real quick, council, the graphic design standards will be presented to you probably at the end of December by Ribbon. So you'll have everything set.
Okay. Are we going to update this?
Yes, yes.
Any other questions? None? Okay. Call vote, please.
Bernardo?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Torres?
Yes, it had to grow on me, I guess.
Rico.
Yes. Item 6B, public hearing for consideration of an ordinance adding section 4-2-1, tethering and penning to chapter 4, animals of the code of the city of Trinidad, Colorado, in furtherance of the proper care of animals. Hearing is now open. Anything to add to that?
Nothing to add to
You
last
have
That will stand for itself.
anyone in the audience to speak for or against for the change ordinance? Not. Hearing's closed. Second reading of an ordinance adding section 4-2-1, tethering and penning to chapters 4, animals of the code of the city of Trinidad, Colorado, in furtherance of the proper care of animals. Would you please read the ordinance?
An ordinance adding section 4-2-1, tethering and penning to chapter 4, animals of the code of the city of Trinidad, Colorado, in furtherance of the proper care of animals.
Okay, just a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
any discussion?
I have a question, if no one else does.
Sure.
Were those adjustments made for the length of the,
Yes, it does.
Chain.
Section 3.
And I'll read that.
okay, I just wanted to make sure. That was it?
Any other questions? No questions?
4 hours.
Okay. Okay, the ordinance, this is the thing that he was talking about, the Councilman Nichols was talking about. The ordinance has been amended to change number 3 to allow only a 4-hour period of time that an animal may be without appropriate shelter. And number 10, to 24 square feet per animal, or 3 times the length of the animal, whichever is greater. That is the change.
And, Mr. Mayor, we checked with Noah's Ark and they said, the standards that we have in there are very, adequate.
Okay. Okay, no other discussion, call vote please.
Benado,
Yes.
Fletcher,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 6C, public hearing, public hearing for consideration of an ordinance repealing and reenacting section 19-18, assessing cost of Article 2, hazardous growth, chapter 19, trees and vegetation of the code of the city of Trinidad, Colorado, to impose a flat fee for administration in addition to actual cost of the abatement by the city forces when required. Hearing is now open. Anyone, any other information? Anyone in the audience to speak for or against the ordinance repealing? Not? Hearing closed. Second reading of an ordinance repealing, reenacting section 19-18, assessing costs of Article 2, hazardous growth, chapter 19, trees and vegetation of the city of the code of the city of Trinidad, Colorado, to impose a flat fee for administration in addition to actual costs of the abatement by the city forces when required. Please read the ordinance.
An ordinance repealing and reenacting section 19-18, assessing costs of Article 2, hazardous growth, chapter 19, trees and vegetation of the code of the city of Trinidad, Colorado, to impose a flat fee for administration in addition to actual costs of the abatement by city forces when required.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion, Mr. Bernard?
Nothing, no, sir.
Ms. Torres, anybody? No, sir. Call vote, please.
Benado,
Yes.
Fletcher,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 6D, public hearing for consideration of an ordinance repealing and reenacting section 16-65, number 1, assessment of cost and collection of assessments. Of Article 7, nuisances, chapter 16, public peace, morals, and welfare, of the code of the city of Trinidad, Colorado, to impose a flat fee for administration in addition to actual cost of the abatement by the city forces when required. Hearing is now open. Any information on that? Anyone in the audience to speak for or against the ordinance? Not? Hearing is closed. Second reading of an ordinance repealing and reenacting section 16-65, number 1, assessment of costs and collection of assessments of Article 7, nuisances, chapter 16, public peace, morals, and welfare of the code of the city of Trinidad, Colorado, to impose a flat fee for administration in addition to actual cost of the abatement by city forces when required. Would you please read the ordinance?
An ordinance repealing and reenacting section 16-65-1, assessment of costs and collection of assessments of Article 7 nuisances, Chapter 16 public peace, morals, and welfare of the Code of the City of Trinidad, Colorado, to impose a flat fee for administration in addition to actual costs of the abatement by city forces when required.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion on it?
I have a question. So for this particular new code enforcement, say if someone has something, I don't know, how would you present it as immoral written on the side of their house? Is that something, I mean, if it has a statement that is, depicted towards thieves or any group of people, how are we going to go about getting that work abated?
I don't think this proposed ordinance would address things like that. That would probably come under possible criminal codes, things like that.
Okay, because I took it as the public peace, morals, and welfare section. If you're going to have something blatantly that's, vulgar or something on the side of your home for all to see, is that something that's not applicable then?
Well, not for junk cleanup.
Are you talking about like keep the F out or something like that?
Yeah.
Good example.
That's exactly what's on my mind.
If I may, the public peace, morals, and welfare language is just it's arcane language that is used for a huge section of the code. And it's like, it lumps everything in. It's not actually appealing to the morals or like trying to, I understand the question, but it's really not designed to do that. It's a catch-all term for a large section of the municipal code.
And it's mainly towards the welfare of it, the appearance of it.
Right, I would.
Tidiness is a moral virtue.
I understand the validity of your concern and certainly your explanation, how we're pointed, but First Amendment rights, kind of an issue here.
Yeah,
We have to tread lightly around.
Yeah.
Right. And
Personal property, yeah.
right. It's like the public peace and dignity. I mean, it's a very broad kind of category that a lot of stuff goes into and goes under. So,
I would think that there might be a slight distinction, however slight, if there's a sign posted on a residence in a residential area, remote, as compared to a sign posted at a main commercial.
but we're not trying to legislate morality.
No, we're not.
I promise.
Okay, I just wanted to know how that distinction was set, because they are in quotations for public peace, morals, and welfare.
Yes, understood. It's a
All
good
of
question.
which is subject to interpretation.
Good point. But it's just a large portion of the code and
The rest is cleanup.
that's right. That's right.
Any other questions? Call the vote, please.
Donato?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes?
Lopez?
Yes.
McKay?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Torres?
Yes.
Rico?
Yes. Item 6E, public hearing for consideration of an ordinance amending section 7-50 through 7-53 of Article 8, purchases of Chapter 7, finance and taxation regarding small purchases, informal bids, and informal bids. Hearing is now open. Do you have any additional information on that? Anyone in the audience to speak for or against the ordinance amendment? Not, means closed. Second reading of an ordinance amending sections -750 through 7-53 of Article 8, purchases of Chapter 7, finance and taxation regarding small purchases, informal bids, and informal bids. Motion, read the ordinance, please.
An ordinance amending sections 7-50 through 7-53 of Article 8, purchases of Chapter 7, finance and taxation regarding small purchases, informal bids, and formal bids.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Discussion?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Mattei, discussion?
No.
Ms. Fletcher?
This is basically moving the limit from 30 to 50, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions, Mr. Lopez?
This also will Is this the portion that will permit the directors to have a $500 to $1,000 increase as well?
Yes. that's
Okay.
right.
Just want to make sure that's out there.
And according to the direction at the last meeting, we added the language about in aggregate. We did it to two sections. We did it to the one over 50 and the one over 25, or over 10.
Any questions? No? Now, I'm just gonna read that. It says, an aggregate has been added to each section where it discusses the maximum amount. Any further discussion? Call vote, please.
Renato?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles? Suarez?
Yes.
Rico?
Yes. Item 6F, public hearing for consideration of ordinance amending the City of Trinidad's annual budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2017 and ending on December the 31st, 2017 to identify projected additional expenditures in the general fund, power and light, water, sewer, lottery, tourism, and capital funds. Hearing is now open. Guess you have some information for us.
Good evening, Council. I just wanted to bring your attention to the fact that we changed from the previous budget expense report that you received on November 8th. The reason being is the sewer loan, we had intended to pay off the sewer loan early, but we can't. We wouldn't recognize the savings. Actually, we'd be charged an additional $8,000. So we're going to pay that off in 2018. What I've done is realigned the debt service and will instead pay off the street sweeper and the trolley this year. So that's just the difference. It's almost the same amount, but it's been rearranged. Also, I did increase the general fund, the miscellaneous outside contract services, miscellaneous building maintenance, and non-discretionary SURSA insurance. I'm a little bit worried that we're going to overexpend those line items, and we don't want to overexpend the general fund, so I've just increased it by $210,000.
Any questions?
Not for me.
Any questions, Mr. Lucas?
These funds, just so I'm aware, just for last edification, they're coming from our contingency fund?
The increases are the transfer, it's marijuana money that we're recognizing. We're increasing to recognize the marijuana money, and then we're transferring into certain funds to pay off debt service, or we're increasing the general funds to pay off fleet, that type of thing.
Okay.
The debt service to the sewer, that's one you're talking about waiting until 2018. So
Yes.
there's excess money from there because the amount that's a street sweeper is less amount, correct?
Correct.
What are you doing with that?
Oh, you're right. I forgot. There is a little bit more money left over because we won't pay off the full $493,000, and it's $176,000, and we are going to put that money into contingent or compensated absences to try to meet that liability that we have for all the outstanding sick and vacation time
Is that
for
where that
employees.
167 is?
176,000.
I saw in there that the line
Yes.
item.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Any other information, any other questions for us? No. Thank you. Anyone in the audience to speak for or against the ordinance? Please closed. Second reading of an ordinance amending the City of Trinidad's annual budget for the fiscal year beginning on January 1, 2017 and ending on December 31st, 2017 to identify projected additional expenditures in the general fund, power, light, water, sewer, lottery, tourism, and capital funds. Please read the ordinance.
An ordinance amending the City of Trinidad's annual budget for the fiscal year beginning on January 1, 2017 and ending on December 31st, 2017 to identify projected additional expenditures in the general fund, power and light, water, sewer, lottery, tourism, and capital funds.
Motion to approve the second reading?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? None, call a vote, please.
Renato?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Suarez?
Yes.
Rico?
Yes. Item G. Public hearing for consideration of an ordinance regarding the provision of natural gas service by the Trinidad Municipal Natural Gas Department and decreasing the gas supply charge applicable, okay, to all customer service classifications Hearing is now open. Any other information? Anyone to speak for or against the ordinance? None? Hearing is closed. Second reading of an ordinance regarding the provision of natural gas service by the Trinidad Municipal Natural Gas Department and decreasing the gas supply charged applicable to all customer service classifications. What this does decreases the, I'll read that bit. Read the ordinance, please.
An ordinance regarding the provision of natural gas service by the Trinidad Municipal Natural Gas Department and decreasing the gas supply charge applicable to all customer service classifications.
Three times. Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second. Second. Any discussion? Mr. Matei?
No.
No? No? What this does is, just for information, decreases the gas supply charge beginning with the December 1st billing from 0.449 per CCF per 100 cubic feet to 0.2275 per CCF. Call vote, please.
Bernardo,
Yes.
Fletcher,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 7A, miscellaneous business. Police vehicle technology grant. Monica? Okay, before we get, a motion to approve, please? So moved. Second.
Second.
And we'll have some report by Monica.
So about a year ago, Jennifer Lay and I started a grant process through CDOT. And it's for the Department of Revenue e-crash submissions. We were conditionally approved. I'm sorry, I was supposed to introduce myself. Good evening, Council. So we were conditionally approved for the grant in March. We rewrote the short form, and then we were approved for the short form. We wrote the long form. Actually, I wrote the long form, and we were approved in August. So the grant actually gives us technology for the officers. It's a laptop hybrid. They're Panasonic ToughBooks. And then we'll have routers in the vehicles. We'll have printers, and then we'll have crash reporting, and we're hoping to get the officers all CCIC and CIC access. So that's basically the idea behind the grant and what we applied for. What the state requires of us is to actually report to the Department of Revenue for any crashes. So those are usually an on-scene sort of thing where when they're on site, it's latitude and longitude, they start the crash reporting there. So that's the requirement of the grant. What we saw was the far-reaching implications of having technology in the cars. And I wrote a little bit of it up for you. So we were talking about things like drones. We would have the ability actually to connect the drones to the cars and then the laptops. There are several technologies out that we haven't even really considered a whole lot, but it would give us the foundation for that. Portable language translation tools. So for instance, if they pull someone over, they don't speak the language, they can actually use the tablets to translate for them. Automatic tag and license plate readers. So eventually maybe cameras in the cars that allow them to do that. Really, they'll download daily for stolen cars, stolen license plates, and then their car runs that information. And it gives them great information for, they'll know right away, maybe someone going down the highway, it's a stolen car from somewhere. Star Chase is another one. It's actually a GPS. It's a little cannon that fires a GPS. So my understanding is here we have a no pursuit. You would actually connect a GPS to their car, so they wouldn't have to pursue. So these are the technologies that we could potentially use this for. Drones, and then social media, which is another one. We can actually see if somebody is at Walmart on Facebook and they made a post. Especially if they're an active criminal, somebody that they're looking for. So the technology really gives us something that's far more reaching than what we're really going to get out of it right now. So we're looking forward. What it gives us in the way of hardware is only the 7 for each, well, 6 for the officers, and we'll have 1 in spare. All the cars will have the mounts, GPS, and the printers. So it's a lot of money. We were able to get 90, if you turn to your back page there, CDOT is going to provide $91,655 of the project. Our cash in kind is $15,316. That's cash. We also have a labor or a personnel contract is what they call it, in kind. And the first page shows you how we estimated those hours. We have myself and Tara as possible for reporting, Candace and Kimberly. Candace isn't with us, but Kimberly will assume that role. Jennifer and Jay, and then the 18 police officers. And it will entail training and then reporting after the fact to DOR. I think that's all. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for him? Mr.
Think not for me.
So the officer can like run a plate or a person right from his own computer? Oh, that's cool.
They can, and they'll, we will try to give them, they'll continue to stay contacted with control room, but we'll try to give them access to CCIC and CIC. There are times, my understanding is there are times when control room is very, very busy, and they're able to get that information without having to wait. So if they were looking someone up, they were looking to call up.
It gives them the opportunity to communicate in public.
Yes, yeah.
Good job. Thank you for doing that. You and Jennifer.
Would these funds have to come out of the 2017 or 2018 budget?
They're budgeted for 2017. We don't have the PO yet. They were thinking they would give us the PO in October, the end of October, but it's the state of Colorado. They said it could take up to 2 months. We've done our homework. We have a team that's actually already been put together. We know who's going to be providing the car installations. We have all the quotes for the mounts, the Panasonics, the cradle points, which is actually the routers. So we've kind of done our homework, so we're really prepared. And the hope is that even in just the next couple weeks, we can get the PO and get the money spent rather than rolling it. But it is budgeted for 2017.
And that would be the company based out of Georgia who would be doing the installation and...
They do the programming, so that's APS. And their job is to connect crash reporting to eForce. It's basically an interface that they give us. It's just a report. So each one of the officers will sit down. They start the reports always on scene because we have to use latitude and longitude. All they do is program for us. In order to meet the requirements of the grant, we have to digitally submit those crash reports.
Okay, so my second part to that question is then, when I was going through, if I'm correct, then on the contract with that particular organization, there's a maintenance fee that's allocated along with that annually.
Yes.
Do we know what that maintenance fee is?
Yes, it's $1,400 a year.
Well, that's not too bad. Okay, because I couldn't find it. I was looking all over for it, and then I know we have to have 90 days before if we choose to terminate.
Yeah.
It has to be 60 days before
Yeah.
the end of the term.
It's
which
not
is kind of
a
weird.
lump sum up front. It's that lump sum. And it's not, it was 40,000, I can't remember off the top of my head. I should have brought that information with me, but I'm happy to send it to you.
Okay.
I'll send that out, and you'll see a better breakdown of what we have for APS. I just did it in a spreadsheet, so I'll send that out to you.
That was my question, was just the annual, because we have still some upkeep thereafter.
Right, we do. And we agreed in the grant also to continue the project in our own way. So for instance, we know we have the tough books, we only have 7 of them, and that gives us 1 spare. But as we bring officers on, or as the detectives, as it gets to be important that the detectives maybe have that technology, then in our grant we wrote that we intend to further this on our own. We have to become self-sustaining. Now we didn't say exactly how many we'll buy, but that's going to be it's a condition of that grant.
These are some pretty critical functions. I mean, do we know that these things, the bugs are worked out on these things, that have other jurisdictions use these, and seen tremendous improvement in efficiency?
From what I've read, and of course I'm not an officer, and we do have some officers that have come from up north, it's vital to what they do, and safety is a big part of that. Having the car's GPS actually allows control room to see where the car is. So if you lose communication with an officer, if nothing else, you can find their cars. So I would think that you probably would be able to add to that more than I could, but
it seems like there is so
It
much
sounds
they
great.
can do.
It sounds great.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they can do a lot with that technology.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Morris?
I was waiting to see
No,
what Mr.
when I
McCain was
left the
gonna
patrol,
say.
they were transitioning to that, we had those Panasonic books you talked about, and they're pretty durable, the military used them, and that's how a lot of them are available.
Yep.
Technology is here, I mean, it makes Dick Tracy's wristwatch pale in comparison, but,
Yeah, and these are a little bit different. They're not the laptop. They're a hybrid. You can actually take the tablet out. So if you could do a signature there, we're not capable of that just yet. We'll still have to print the
the
cards.
concern sometimes, or at least was for us to have officers training so that they know what they're doing with it and that they use them when they're not in motion and be running into things.
Yes.
And the logistical kinds of things that happen when you get a new toy.
Yeah.
And it's important not to do
Yeah.
that.
We did GPS them too, just in case they leave them somewhere.
Yeah.
So, but that is true. We do have, in this piece of it, when we talk about the 18 police officers and their time, that's training. It's not just training for DOR, it's training to get them proficient with the technology. And we have, the enthusiasm has been amazing. We have a very small team right now, but they're thinking forward, they're thinking of things we can do with it. So the training is a big part of that.
When I was with Aurora PD, we did a pilot project with in-car computers. We were the first department to do that in the United States, and the downside of that was the attention. If your attention's focused on something else, your attention's taken away from. That was the only downside of it. Yeah. That was the only downside of the pilot project.
Yeah. I watch on Live PD. They typically drive with them closed. I mean, that's just TV, but I love that show. So.
Mr. Bernard, do you have any questions?
I have one more, man. So with the dispatch then getting training in that as well for the GPS locations for them, will that eliminate when, say, all cars get called to one location, you have 3 on one side of town, and you have, police officers at times of the essence, but they are speeding through our downtown area where we have a lot of pedestrians. Maybe they can locate one on that side of town already and send them alone. The others can go there at not quite a vigorous pace. Because today there was 3 vehicles that ran through downtown, and they were going about 50 or 60. And I've had people downtown complain that, and I understand they got to get there, but sometimes there's pedestrians that walk and aren't always as mindful as we would like.
Absolutely. I don't think that's something we thought of when we were writing the grant, but every time you think of something that could work or could assist, that's definitely something they can see and control. They'll know where those cars are. So I haven't seen the interface. I don't know what it looks like yet, but I think that's definitely something. We don't even have them on the list for training actually because they already have CCIC and CIC. But every time we look forward, we can say, okay, we can train them on this piece of this, and we have the tool.
A couple of questions that I have is, you only have a certain number of minutes right now. What does it cost per unit to add?
I think I figured it's just over $7,000 to add 1 unit to 1 car. That's all technology.
And I think you had mentioned that some of the additional services that may be available, is there a cost to some of these other services that may be available? Have you looked at, let's say we're able to get the whole thing, what that additional cost would be over and above to be able to?
I've done a little bit of looking. I spoke with Oracle the other day about the Facebook technology, which is amazing because you can see where everybody posts from. So if you're looking for a known criminal in your area, you're concerned that they might be there. Maybe you've gotten information that they're heading your direction. I talked to them about it. I don't have their quote. Oracle's usually expensive. So I have not looked at numbers. I would like to look at numbers just because I think that we have an opportunity to use this.
I agree with you. I think it's something to dig into because down the road, if we feel like, if you feel or the chief decides he would like to look into it. Chief, would you come forward, please? Give us your input on it.
So, I'm very excited that in fact, we're one of the agencies that don't have it. This technology is almost across the board in big communities, small as well. So I'm excited we're going to get it, and I'm going to have it in every car. Anytime that there's a patrolman out there, they're going to have it in their car as well. So we're going to add to it as we go too.
I just have one question. When you're talking about getting services from, where'd you say this comes out of, Georgia, or where'd you say that?
Yeah, that's the programming team
That's
that
a
works with the
programming
Department
thing.
of
That kind of
Revenue.
gives me flashbacks of Tyler Technology,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
I know you're laughing, Mr. Downs, but that gives me flashbacks. And I don't wanna see us getting stuck like we did with Tyler Technology with this type of upgrade. You know, it's important not only to me, but to the people of this community, that we gotta pay so much money on this Tyler Technology with the updates still not being corrected. And that's been 5, 6 years ago or whatever. But that's what I worry about. That's what I worry about the whole thing, Mr. Mayor. And I think we have to really watch our little steps that we take here and make darn sure that there's not gonna be no additional other charges come forth to the city and say, well, you need to update, well, we'll be there next week, and that never happens, or the training and stuff, and that's all I have to say.
Have you checked into that to make sure that there's no additional fees other than?
And also training and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Training
do
is
that.
definitely part of it. It's written into the MSA with, we haven't signed the MSA yet. We won't do that till we get the PO. Training is written into it, and I understand what you're talking about. Oftentimes what happens is it's less personal because they're in Georgia. We don't have that local contact. And it can be more difficult to actually hold their feet to the fire and make them do something. We had searched, there's only 2 providers that do this, and one's Tyler.
Oh, my God. Oh.
So, we only had, they're basically a sole source provider. The interface, though, is very scaled down. So when you look at it, I think, Chief, did you see it that day they presented it?
Right, yes.
Okay. I didn't see it. I missed the training, or the presentation. All it is a form, and basically on the back side, it takes the data from the form, it ships it to eForce, our RMS software applications, and then it ships it to the Department of Revenue based on their data schema.
Well, I'm all for this. I mean, to keep our officers
Sure.
safe and everything else, you know, that's just a thought that I had. But if it's gonna help our officers and keep them safe, keep our public safe,
Yeah.
it's a great
It's a
idea.
lot of money, too. It's
Yeah,
not like
it's a
we're
lot of
talking
money,
about a
too.
small.
Had you checked into with any other municipalities or the police departments that have been using this and how well they liked it and how, and to kind of answer some of these questions, have you been able to?
I
look into
haven't
that?
reached out to anyone at a different department. I did talk to, when we were at the grant meeting, I talked to the new, there's a few counties and a couple of cities. So we're all moving into this new technology. I will say that most of my experience, really the people who have the experience are the officers, and they're the people that come in or they know more about it because they talk to officers. It's, for me, it's just the foundation for getting someplace bigger.
I think it'd be a good idea maybe just to check with a couple of
Yeah.
places to see if there are any, loopholes or problems that they've had, so that
When
at
they
least that
implement
the chief is aware of it,
Yeah.
if it does happen.
In the little bit of training that she had us do here just recently, we're used to what they're already doing. So a lot of agencies are using it. They're not having any issues that I'm aware of. But we're familiar with what we're getting into now already because we've used it already. It's just now going to be used in the cars.
Oh, nice, okay. Any other questions? Okay, call the vote, please.
Bernardo,
Yes.
Fletcher.
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei.
Yes.
Miles.
Yes.
Forrest. Yes. Rico.
Yes. Item B, marijuana enforcement grant and marijuana impact grant. Motion to approve, please. So moved. Second,
Second.
discussion. Anything on that?
How you doing, Mr.
Second.
Mayor? My name's Bill Holshouser, I'm Police Captain, Trinidad Police Department. The grant in front of you there is essentially derived from HB 1221, and it was made essentially for these types of municipalities. The funds are derived from the marijuana tax and or the marijuana refund tax. It's going to be re-upped every November 1st. The funds that are not spent will be reappropriated, and then the whole grant will be reviewed November 1st, 2019. It's a dual grant fund. It's for communities that have legalized marijuana to some extent and need funding for enforcement, or it's for communities that are not legalized in marijuana and need funding for impact, such as social service programs and counseling, things of that nature.
Any questions?
It's specific to marijuana, does not include opioids.
No, sir, marijuana only.
Understood.
Ms. Fletcher?
I don't have any questions.
Would this help facilitate getting another officer specifically trained in the MED?
Yes.
How many do you think we may be able to get for Trinidad?
1.
That's a good start.
And again, if I might check, it's going to be reviewed November 1st, 2019. So if we are able to get 1 or actually show positive, numbers, progression, then that would be a good sign. So that's the vibe I got from the lady at the state was that if this moves in a positive direction, it's just going to blossom from there.
So therefore, we would be attaining another officer or enhancing a current officer with training from the MED?
Yes. The possibility is there. Yes.
Okay.
And it's all stat driven. So we have to prove our worth, so to speak, show that there is enforcement, there is a need, and these are the results. They're not just going to blank check us, obviously. But to answer your question, yes, the possibility is there based on statistical analysis.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, not that I would expect you to know anything about it, but I know a lot of people have complained about illegal grows in the county.
Yes.
Have you ever talked with anyone in the sheriff's office to see if they might be
I did.
eligible for this as well?
I did. And left a message and communicated with them what we needed to include them on the grant.
Were they responsive?
Not at this point, no.
Ms. Torres?
I think it's great. I don't really have any questions right now. I've been seeing on the news there's a lot of change that's going to be coming because they're learning so much more
Yes, ma'am.
about the industry.
Yes, ma'am.
It's been on the news this week.
Mr. Bernardo?
Sounds great to me, officer. Thank you.
Like I said, this is a DOLA grant, by the way, so.
I apologize. I should.
That's okay, and I should mention that as well, but thanks for putting forth the application, and I put it to good use.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Mayor, I think the morning we had that session on the upcoming election at Moose's, I think the county administrator was saying that they had applied for that grant. Didn't she spend a lot of time?
I think so. That is my recollection.
Oh, yeah, she did.
Yeah, okay.
I remember that.
Looks good.
That's good. Yeah.
They have a different one. There's one for jurisdictions that have not put in any type of marijuana.
Good, hopefully they're doing something with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Other further discussion, call vote please.
Bernardo,
Yes.
Fletcher.
Yes?
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei.
Yes.
Miles.
Yes.
Torres. Rico.
Yes. Item C, first reading of an ordinance vacating a 25-foot wide by 125-foot long portion of unimproved Mercer Street adjacent to the south boundary of Block 25, Block 3, Grandview addition to the city of Trinidad, County of Los Angeles. Setting a hearing date for consideration of ordinance to December the 5th, 2017. Someone to introduce, please.
I'll introduce.
Please read the ordinance.
An ordinance vacating a 25-foot wide by 125-foot long portion of unimproved Mercer Street adjacent to the south boundary of Block 25, Block 3, Grandview addition to the city of Trinidad, County of Los Angeles. Whereas Christine Vasquez and Ron C. Baca, the owners of property described as all of lots 25 through 28, Block 3, Grandview addition to the city of Trinidad, County of Los Angeles, Colorado, has petitioned for a vacation of 25-foot wide portion of Mercer Street adjacent to Lot 25 being 125 foot in length. And whereas said portion of public road is of no valuable use to the city. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Trinidad, Colorado, that when the City of Trinidad, Colorado, a municipal corporation, does hereby vacate that portion of the public road more particularly described in Exhibit A, which is attached to an incorporated herein by reference to the City of Trinidad in vacating the above described real property, does hereby determine that reservation of utility easements is not necessary. Introduced by Councilmember Fletcher, read and ordered, published this 21st day of November 2017.
Thank you. Motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance, please.
So moved.
Second?
Seconded.
Any discussion on the ordinance?
That's like right at the very, 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 very end of Alta, right?
No, it's on High Street.
Yes, Alta and High Street. It is noted on the plat as High Street, but it's known as Alta. You have the correct location.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
We will provide a full accounting and findings at the public hearing on December 3rd.
Well, and if there's no other further discussion, call the vote, please.
Benado,
Yes.
Fletcher,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Torres, yes, Rico.
Yes. Item D, appointments to the Planning and Zoning and Variance Commission. We have two applicants. We have Mr. Tony Moderano, is he in the audience? Not here, okay. Mr. Jackson Fixley, you here?
He's here, Mr.
Who's that?
Mr. Pick.
Yeah, Mr. Fixley's here. Motion to approve the applicants? So moved.
Second.
Second. Discussion? Any question, Mr. Moderano's not here? Or approval, or should he be here, or should he not?
I think
I think it should be here.
Okay,
Was he aware of it?
yes. Do you want to make a motion to exempt him at this point? or-
I do. So moved.
Okay. The motion to exempt Mr. Moderano from the application at this time? Okay. Motion, please, on that, you got a motion on
An amended motion to approve the candidacy of Mr. Pixley.
that? Second?
And
Second.
Okay, any other discussion on that?
Is Mr. Monterano going to be able to reapply?
Sure.
I mean,
Oh, yeah. He just should be here.
he just needs to
He
be.
should be here, yeah. Mr. Pixley,
Hello, sir.
tell us of your interest.
Well, as you guys know, I just ran for city council and came up short by a little bit. Anyway, my whole thing is to serve my community, and I want to do that in any capacity possible. And I think that the P&Z would really give me a lot of much needed experience. I think I'm hardworking enough and dedicated enough and intelligent enough to take on any tasks that you'll give me. So.
Any questions for us?
I have a comment. Having visited with you on many occasions, I think you bring a dimension of perception that would be wholesome and healthy and contributory to planning and zoning.
Appreciate that.
Ms. Fletcher?
No questions.
I have a comment as well. I think that your experience in the marijuana industry will definitely bring another added benefit to our Planning and Zoning Commission, as you have been well aware of MED's laws and restrictions.
I agree with Mr. Lopez. Welcome aboard.
The other question, the only question I have is, do you have any other experience like building or anything that, in your past that you been associated with? Building, construction,
Yeah,
contracting?
absolutely. I mean, I could darn near build a house from the ground up. I've been drywalling since I was 9 years old. My dad owned a drywall company. I've been a carpenter. I ran a roofing crew. I can do everything but plumbing and electric. So I know I read blueprints. We used to build big malls up in Minnesota summers when I was in college. So quite a bit of construction experience.
So that's, a lot of battle right there is, I know we have someone that's just leaving right now, planning and zoning, and those are some
Pretty big shoes to fill.
But anyhow, anyway, thanks for that, for applying, and put you to good use.
All right, great.
Thank you.
That's me.
Call vote, please.
Benado,
I'd say yes, but accepting that we were able to accept Mr. Monterano's better.
Fletcher,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Torres, yes, Rico.
Yes. Item E, first reading of an ordinance amending section 2-74, procedure of bargaining units, elections and recognition. Number 1, definitions of Charter 2, administration, to be consistent with the Home Rule Charter of the City of Trinidad and setting a hearing date for consideration of said ordinance of December the 5th, 2017. Someone to introduce, please.
So moved.
Would you please read the ordinance?
An An ordinance amending section 2-74 procedure of bargaining units, elections and recognition, definitions of chapter 2 administration to be consistent with the home rule charter of the city of Trinidad. Be it ordained by the city council of the city of Trinidad, Colorado, that section 1, amendment of article 18 collective bargaining of chapter 2 administration procedure and bargaining units, election and recognition. Section 2-74 procedure of bargaining units, elections and recognition. 1. Definitions of the Code of the City of Trinidad, Colorado is hereby amended as follows. 2-74 procedure of bargaining units, election and recognition. 1. Definitions. As used in this section, unless the context otherwise requires. A. Bargaining units means each of the 3 separate bargaining units recognized by the city and specified as follows. 1. Fire Department. A. Includes all fire department positions excluding all administrative positions. 2. Trinidad Police Department. A. Includes all police department positions excluding all administrative positions. 3. General Government. A. Includes all general government positions not within the fire or police department excluding all administrative positions. B. Exclusive bargaining agent means the employee organization recognized by the city as the exclusive bargaining agent in accordance with this section. C. Majority means 51% of the entire bargaining unit. Section 2. Severability. If any section, paragraph, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is held to be unconstitutional or invalid for any reason, such decision shall not affect the validity or constitutionality of the remaining portions of this ordinance. The City Council hereby declares that it would have passed this ordinance and each part or parts hereof, irrespective of the fact that any part or parts be declared unconstitutional or invalid. Section 3. Effective date. This ordinance shall be published and become effective 10 days after the final passage as provided in Section 5.5 of the Home Rule Charter for the City of Trinidad, Colorado. Introduced by Councilmember Venado, read and ordered, published this 21st day of November 2017.
Thank you. Motion to approve first reading of the ordinance, please. Second.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Venado.
Nothing at this time, yeah.
Torres?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. What this does, this ordinance removes the definition of supervisory that had to be included in a previous ordinance because of language contained in the charter. So that's what that says.
It brings the ordinances in line with the charter.
Exactly. Call roll, please.
Venado.
Yes.
Fletcher.
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei.
Yes.
Miles.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item F, resolution authorizing health insurance benefits for city employees and their dependents through Cigna Healthcare for plan year January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2018. Motion to approve the resolution. So moved. Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Donovan?
No, sir.
Anybody? Is there confirmation that for the first time we're in single digits?
Yeah. I'm sorry, say again?
For the first time, our increases are in the single
Oh,
digits
okay.
instead of well into the double digits.
Very good, thank you. No.
What it does, this overall increase is 7.9%. The city's funding level will remain the same as current funding level, 79% low and 74% high.
It's a big deductible.
You know, the question I had, Audra, and it didn't really explain the difference between the high and the low plan. I was kind of wondering how that worked, because there was no...
The only difference is the prescription drug
Okay.
plan. So
Yeah.
there's a couple of groups of employees that really can't opt for the generic brand or generic prescriptions because of asthma and diabetes in particular. So there's the high and the low.
Going through Medicare, I understand.
Yeah.
What about the high and low goes with this?
Given the,
Sure.
given the unsettled nature of healthcare, it's a formidable benefit.
Yeah.
that we are able to continue to offer this to our members.
Ms. Fletcher commented on how high the deductible is, mine is $7,500. It's multiples of this monthly premium.
Insurance
Just just to make that point about the solidarity or the stability of our city.
There's another discussion, call vote please.
Donato?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Torres? Yes. Rico?
Yes. Item G, ADA policies adoption. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion. Mr. Beach is here to give us an update.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, you remember about a month ago I came before you telling you we were going to bring these policies to you as an updated policy. We finally got everything in order. We've got maybe one or two more to put in, but we figured we'd bring these for you before you now to get your approval. The policies are quite varied, like it says in the notice. The result is the city will have guidelines now. We'll actually have something in print and something approved and on the books for all these items.
I don't have anything.
It's not in my
7G.
packet.
I'm sorry?
It's not in my packet.
It's missing.
Oh.
G is missing.
I don't either.
I have it on the agenda, but not in the rest of the information.
I can run through them real quick if you care, if you need to.
Does
Or,
council want to hear them?
I mean, it does just the titles. We don't. We'll be here for quite a while.
Yeah, if you want to give us the title, that'd be good.
Certainly. The four that we've already adopted and we've had in the books for quite a while were the designation of the ADA coordinator, the emergency management plan, the grievance procedure, and the self-evaluation plan. The new ones are as follows: the American with Disability Act's mobility device policy that I spoke of last time when we were right before you, the non-discrimination eligibility criteria policy, the contractor's licensing and certification policy, the effective communication policy, the equal employment policy. That was rather lengthy. The general program access policy, the basic notice for that we are under the American with Disabilities Act, reasonable accommodation policy, reasonable modification policy, a service animal policy, a ticketing policy, which is quite extensive. Even though we have very little reason to have one, at least it was highly recommended. And the final one is the transportation access policy. And again, these are very generic type policies that we're adopting. There's really not anything terribly specific, and that is because we don't want to make them specific, because that will limit our ability to enforce them.
Would council want him to forward that information, all the actual policies back to us?
Could I just suggest we hold off on this till the next meeting and we'll give them back?
Okay. On the table at that, please? Motion to table, please?
So moved.
Okay, just go first and second, and discussion. Okay, being none, call vote please, to table?
Donato?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Torres? Yes. Rico?
Yes. Okay, item H. Report the preliminary and final subdivision plan, motion to approve.
So moved.
Second? Mr. Marshall.
Yes, good evening, Mayors, Member of Council, Tara Marshall, Development Services Director. The Planning, Zoning, and Variance Commission reviewed and is recommending the application from La Puerta LLC to approve both the preliminary and the final plat on behalf of the developer's request. We're putting forward a little bit different process with this particular subdivision. Our intent in this application is to accomplish two things. The first is the dedication of the right-of-way. The second is the recording of temporary easements for all of the existing utilities. The approval that you give tonight would be only for would be to approve the application based on those two components. The developer will be required to re-subdivide the property with all of the additional considerations that will come in front of Planning, Zoning, and Variance Commission and City Council. This is a complicated development, and it should be reviewed in pieces as the developer has those ready to pursue. Just for clarification, the approval of this subdivision tonight will allow them to pursue funding for the engineering design of the proposed roadway that we're dedicating, and also the development and submit building permits for the rehabilitation of all the existing buildings they intend to keep. So we don't want to hold them up in their ability to fund their public improvements as well as rehabilitate the existing structures. Before they can grade the property, apply for any foundation or construction permits, or consider any permanent public improvements, they will need to come back through the subdivision process through planning and zoning and city council. This is not unusual. It is the first time we've brought it forward in this manner. Planning, Zoning, and Variance Commission heard the application last Tuesday, November 14th, and approved it unanimously with several conditions. And we would ask that council consider approval of the application with the conditions set forward by Planning, Zoning, and Variance. They're found in your staff report on page 8. There are 4 conditions which Planning, Zoning, and Variance placed on the application. Each of these conditions ensures that the applicant will come back through the subdivision process as the next stages of development continue. Staff is also recommending that when council adopts this with the recommendations of Planning, Zoning, and Variance Commission, that City Council add 1 additional condition. And that condition would be that if or when permanent development is sought, including the construction of public improvements, the applicant will be required to comply with the Code of Ordinance Section 1412 titled Public Improvements, Improvement Guarantees, Development Agreements, Construction Plans, Inspections, and Maintenance of Dedicated Improvements. The developer already intends to comply with this, and they've stated that. Staff wanted 1 more condition that explicitly called out that section, and that section will ensure the bond that we would be requiring on the public improvements. So we would ask if you consider the approval of this to do so with Planning and Zoning's approved conditions as well as the additional condition recommended by staff. And I believe Mr. Gabrielson's here to give you a little more information about the development. But do you have any questions for me based on the application?
The only question I have is, let's say they have to come forward each time.
Yes.
What would you see the length of that time of that application would take?
I think that's probably a question more for Mr. Gabrielson, who can give you a little bit about the timeline. Many of the items that they are in process and doing them right now. I would expect we would see this fairly quickly for some of the items as they're beginning to move forward. As you know, we're very excited about some of the new businesses that they've been able to attract, and that in and of itself will have its own timeline. I think it probably is best Mr. Gabrielson addresses that. It was our recommendation that we bring it forward in this manner. The city's partnering with them in working on trying to design and do engineering plans and construction documents for, as you know, the utilities, the mains that are going through La Puerta, as well as our own sewer trunk line. So really, before we can pursue or jointly pursue, or they can independently pursue funding for the right-of-way to be constructed, it has to be dedicated to the city. When we did the Cedar Street project in this manner and partnered with the developer, I would remind council that right-of-way of Cedar Street was dedicated in the late 1800s. So we just need to dedicate the right-of-way, or else the city really can't in any way help to pursue, or the developer to pursue funding.
I just don't want to see not only this particular project or any project in the future to where it would stall the project or create frustration with the developer, and basically they would say no at some point, because anything that's within our means, outside of our means, that's a different story. But within our means, I think that's.
I think
timeline is important.
I think Mayor Rico creating this solution helps them to get started. It dedicates the right-of-way. It also, on our part, we have no utility easements for the existing utilities. If you refer to the preliminary plat, you can see that they're quite interesting. It's a mishmash of utilities. So the temporary easement that the developer would be dedicating to the city would state that that the easement would, I'm gonna read the exact language, shall be inclusive of 10 feet on either side of the midline of all existing municipal utilities. That will be a temporary easement because part of the engineering we're doing now is to align all of those in the right of way. But I think Mr. Gabrielson can probably speak to your concern. Okay,
Mr. Gabrielson, do you want to come forward?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Carl Gabrielson on behalf of Trinidad Development, and I think Tara did a great job of explaining the intent behind this. The intent behind this is that we move forward and get the city, let the city have control of the right-of-way so that we can jointly file for some DOLA grants and potentially other grants to design and complete the public infrastructure. As she noted, right now that area, La Puerta, 15.37 acres, is a mess of utilities that run all over the place. They're not in easements, and we have, as you all know, we have a challenge with the sewer line that runs through that property. They received a grant, what did you say, about 5 months ago?
In July.
To begin design work to replace that. That's the main trunk line for the north side of the city. It is somewhere between 15 inches and 21 inches, correct? And it's a vitrified clay pipe. And anyone that knows anything about sewer lines knows that's an accident waiting to happen. So that's our goal. We're trying to clean up the utilities in that area, get the right-of-way on the right track based on the direction of staff. This plat will give us basically 2 lots. I'll call it a north lot and a south lot on either side of Americana Road. From there, we'll subdivide those lots into additional parcels throughout the development process. So, you know, you'll see all of these lots once again and have another bite at the apple. And the only thing we're waiting for now is to complete our engineering and design work. So we have all the details to bring in to city staff so they can review.
Any questions for Mr. Gabrielson?
I do. Has Americana Road always been a name that has been there prevalently, or that's something that you have all selected?
It was named by the development team.
The only concern I have, and I don't know if they're amenable to this or not, but when I think of the word road, I don't think we have any other byways in the community that are named road. Would they be amenable to maybe calling it drive or way? Just because when I think of road, I think of county road.
Absolutely, that's a non-issue.
Okay, I just want to keep consistency with the rest of the streets and drives, avenues. But other than that, I think it looks great. But I mean, Americana Drive or way.
Good point. Understood. Glad to see progress. This is great.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no further discussion. All vote please.
Bernardo?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Torres? Yes. Rico?
Yes. Item I, consideration of bid results for countywide or citywide camera system for $158,324.40. Motion to approve. So moved. Second. Any discussion? Mr. Torres?
No. I'm a big fan of citywide cameras.
Yeah.
It looks like it's coming under the cost that we had associated from
Yes.
our funding.
200,000.
Yeah, to 158.
Right.
So that's nice.
Huge change. Ms. Fletcher?
I just have a question on the cameras. Brad Kirby was bringing this up today, and it bears looking into. On the Riverwalk, are there any plans for any cameras down there and lighting?
So, camera-wise, I'll have 2 portables with this bid. So we could position those anywhere in the city. The Riverwalk would be a place that we could place it. If we have an event going on, we could place it at the event. If we have a high-traffic neighborhood, we could place it there. So the addition of these 2 portable cameras could couple of that. Lighting is not that'd be
That's another issue, yeah.
So, but yeah, lighting would help. The Riverwalk, I think we just need to clear out a lot of that vegetation, and that would help us a lot too.
And that's in the works.
Yes.
So that, and I'd like to see it frequented more, and maybe if there were security cameras, people might feel more secure walking it, because they don't right now.
So I think if they know that they're out there periodically.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Those 2 portables I'm really excited about, because, I mean, although that we have them located really good places throughout the city, these two portables are gonna give us, we're gonna be able to reach out pretty far. And Monica was talking about the cars, we'll give access to the cars as well, so we can park a block away essentially and watch the camera.
Oh, cool.
And that's a good thing, because I know one of the things that I hear is there are some people that have had issues issues that have occurred on the river along the walk there. So if letting everybody know that these are out there, maybe give them a little bit more security knowing that they can be down there, so that'd be good.
I know the ladies love it at Central Park and Southside Parks, the parks are, they love it there, so.
If you wanted to add to those units, how much would they cost?
They're about 8,000 a piece, the cameras. I was looking before I came up, so. But with the two portable and we got currently 7, so we got 9 cameras now that we'll have located out. I think we got pretty.
I'm talking about the portables.
Oh, the portables were, I don't remember the cost of those honestly. They're going to be around the same, but they're on a platform, so that plus the platform.
Have we considered maybe looking at being that we had originally allowed 200,000 maybe to upgrade a little bit to something else?
We actually had talked about adding some of those wildlife kind of cameras that just come on when we see movement. So that, I think that was the discussion.
This is a system we could build on though.
Okay, but I think that'd be good, because I think for public safety all the way around, I think that's what we're all looking for. Okay.
Excited, thank you.
All right, thank you. Call vote, please.
Donato?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Horace? Yes. Rico?
Yes. Item J, resolution authorizing expenditure of marijuana revenue received by the city of Trinidad. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Before we get into the discussion, I'll just kind of go over these that I copied. Holiday on Main Street was 3,000. 4 police units with 189,000. Pay off the fire pumper deck was 221,000. The street sweeper was 137,000, and the trolley was 164,000. Compensated absences were 176,000 for a total of $890,000 from the marijuana revenues, which I think that leaves us some excess as well. Am I correct, right? Yep, that was real quiet, yes. How much excess do we have after that, would you say?
By the end of December.
So what we've, or what you've approved is about 2.5 million. Well, including the 310,000 that was originally budgeted, and I'm pretty sure we're slated to collect 2.7 million this year.
I recommend that at some point just take that and put it in the reserve. Okay. Any discussion or any questions?
It's a good idea.
I have a question.
Just a matter of general comment, there seems to be I'll call it a misconception, that the marijuana money is inexhaustible and ought to fund everything and every wish and desire. The truth of the matter is that's not the case. And a comment to how we're choosing to spend this is to spend it on those things that are like a one-time thing that we can get the maximum benefit from the revenues that exist now and here, and that are not necessarily dependent on future things that happen. Once we do it, it's money well spent.
I have a comment, and it's just basically to go on to some of the items that we have for potential other expenditures in the future years. I just want to say that now that 1A passed in the city, and the district attorney's office is going to be receiving approximately $300,000 to $500,000, I don't think that we need to give them another $50,000 as we had originally discussed in the retreat.
We'll be bringing the 2018 stuff to you in the near future. You have to make a discussion.
That's fine. I just wanted to make a comment.
I did think
I
about
would
that
make a
too.
similar comment.
I think we're all we're all on the same. Ms. Torres, anything?
Did I understand you correctly that rest of that money would go in, you would like to see that rest of the money go into the reserve fund?
To a reserve fund, not the reserve fund, but a reserve fund for other items.
What's the difference between two reserve
We'll
funds?
designate it to a marijuana revenue reserve so that we can use it next year. Instead of letting it just flow back into the general fund. If, with any budgeted money that's not spent,
We can't use marijuana money to put in our reserve fund at all.
your reserve fund.
Yeah, our reserve, the city's reserve fund.
And it's general fund.
Oh, yeah, if
Case
you,
of any.
if you do nothing with it, it just becomes part of general cash. If you want it to designate it so that you know what it's being spent on, then you have to put it in a reserve that says marijuana or something like that.
I think I'd rather have it that way, because then if we can, next year, let's say we have some excess, get compounds
Well,
and stuff.
the advantage of doing that is you can always justify to the public what you're spending it on. Once it rolls into the general cash, there's no way to keep track of it.
Exactly, and then going into the general fund, who knows what we're doing with it and what the benefit is. This way it's specifically earmarked for those one-time shots that we need to do.
Any other discussion? Call vote, please.
Donato?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Torres?
Yes.
Rico?
Yes. Item K, consideration of bid results for the lower level city hall remodel. Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
That bid is in the amount of $49,986.64 to Fedco Incorporated from Pueblo. Mr. Beach.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, first of all, let me apologize for not having the material in your packets for the policy for the AA guidelines. I don't know where they went, so we will address that. Thank you. For the lower level remodel is something we've been trying to do for quite a while. We originally went out with an FRP for design. We had local contractor, local engineer Bob Just did some design work for us, provided a as-built plan and 2 different areas of remodel type situation. The end goal is to provide a couple more offices downstairs and provide some much needed security for the cashiers and the money changers, if you will, downstairs there, because currently there isn't much. So we decided to get this going. We had a mandatory walkthrough on November 1st with 3 different companies attending, and spent quite a bit of time downstairs walking through back and forth. The successful bidder, the low bidder, actually came back on November 8th and did a secondary walkthrough on their own to basically take door measurements and take their time to actually do some measures. As you can see in the bids, there's a discrepancy, substantial difference between the bids. We have talked to Mr. Federico from Fedco. He still stands behind his bid completely. He says he has not forgotten anything. We've given him a couple different chances. I asked for a breakdown, division breakdown from Arkansas Valley and from Lapcon, the other 2 bidders who were substantially higher. And they were high with reason. They had some astounding numbers. For example, and I won't tell you which company it is, one of them had $31,000 in electrical work. There's not 31 outlets in this remodel. So for $31,000 worth of electrical work, that's substantial. Staff has talked about this a couple different times, and I'm comfortable with the bid at this point, having talked to Mr. Federico, having talked to the Pueblo Building Department as regards to his past record up there and being a substantial, a stand-up contractor with no complaints against him in any way on their records. I bring it to you.
Interesting. Any discussion, Mr. Matei?
No.
Ms. Fletcher?
Just curious, the difference in bids.
It's substantial.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, for Mr. Just, did he give you an estimate of what we were anticipating?
He did not give us an estimate. We had a working estimate of about $65,000, which included carpet. Mr. Federico or Fedco's bid does not include carpet, and we knew that when we started. The reason was we tried to get a spec for the carpeting. We were unable to get a spec in time for the bid packet to include it. So we will have a little bit of money there. But one of the other companies, remain unnamed, figured it as 151 yards of carpet at $30 a yard. That's $4,500. So it's still not a huge difference.
Now, my second question is regarding your electrical updates that they were proposing for the one unnamed company. Was that including any IT or
No.
Cat 5 or any kind of
Nothing at all, it was just
upgrades to that?
and lights. More than that.
Huh.
A few lights over the cashier area downstairs, the cashier area basically, everything else pretty much stays as it is.
We're actually doing rewiring for internet purposes and network purposes as kind of like
A supplemental.
coal project.
Yes, another separate plan.
I just make an observation, if Fedco hadn't showed up, we would have taken the next lowest bidder, which would have been a factor of 4 instead of a factor of 5. Is there any particular file where we can just sort of flag someone with some skepticism on their bid? Because
Our
we could have
office-
ended up getting out.
Our office has received bids from these other two companies before, and they've been substantially larger than the other bids that we've received, so I mean, we're kind of skeptical when we do see
Because
them.
I'd hate to ever go with a single source bidder.
Understandable,
Being one of
yeah,
these.
I mean, obviously, well, if I may, obviously, it would have been way over our proposed budget to begin with, so we would have had to step back anyhow and figure out what to do there, before we were awarded to them, so.
Mr. Torres?
I just thought to ask Mr. Heath, do you expect any large changeovers, as far as,
There was undoubtedly gonna be a few small ones, just because of the nature of the beast with the
we're not looking
construction.
at a big
I don't,
jump in
I truly did not, and I asked Mr. Federico that as well, do you see any, and he said, no, I don't foresee it. I'm relying on that, and I'm kind of standing by it.
Other than the carpet?
Yeah, the carpet,
Other than
again,
the
the carpet was
carpet,
not
yeah.
included really in 2 of the 3 bids, so.
What was the original cost estimate?
Between 60 and 65,
So this is within reason.
and when you add the carpet to it, it would be.
However, we have had discussions in-house about, now that we'll have a contractor in-house for a little bit, it might help us do some of the ADA improvements that we are obligated to do anyway. Like on the second floor, we need to lower the counter in order to have an ADA accessible counter. Some of those little bitty things that we can't get anybody to come in on, we might be able to do those, but
And those would just be the add-ons that like Mr. Nobbs asked.
Would just be
But it's not a change order,
Yeah.
it's actually different.
Yeah, the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, call vote please.
Benado,
yes.
Fletcher,
Yes?
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 8, council report, starting with Mr. Donato.
I'll ask Audra one thing, can we, I've had a number of phone calls, is there any way that we, without changing the charter or nothing, can we post our agenda in the papers other than at City Hall? And because a lot of the older people have called me and said, Mr. Knoll, it's kind of hard, we don't get out to the City Hall, we can't go to the library, is there any way that we could, the city could post that in the Chronicle for me, because it'd be easier access for them?
Probably if we're willing to pay for it, well, certainly if
Is
we're
that a
willing
big
to pay
jump
for it.
in cost like that?
It depends, if we publish it as illegal, it wouldn't be real expensive, but we could probably anticipate, I would got $100 an agenda as illegal. I can certainly talk with the Chronicle and see if they would be willing to do
See what they
something.
could do, and like I say, might help us our.
I have one thought. A lot of older people have grandchildren. If it were posted online, they could just
Maybe
print
they
it out
could do that too.
for Gorilla.
I didn't think of that.
We could also take collections of email addresses if people want us to send it to them.
Yeah, a lot of, even the elderly have, computers these days too. A lot of some
For their
folks-
grandkids.
If they don't,
Grandkids, all of us.
If they all do.
Probably, so yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you, Audra.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Ms. Torres? Ms. Miles? Well, that's some really good news. It looks like we're on the verge of signing executed agreements to settle the Lamar ARPA lawsuit. And it is well within the negotiating guidance that was given. And I feel really good about it. We are, as a matter of fact, starting, the one thing that, the biggest problem with their lawsuit was that it prevented us from accessing the capital markets and getting a much lower refinancing rate on the bonds. And so anyway, we have a conference call at 11:30 tomorrow morning with Goldman Sachs, Public Financial Management, our advisors, myself and the president of the board. And we have updated numbers, and they're about 15% higher than they were over the summer. So very substantial savings.
Good job.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's timing, you know. But anyway, we did hang in there, and we didn't take the last deal. Something else. It's kind of early to mention this, but Mr. Sund and I sat down with the people at Crossroads Turning Point and started a preliminary discussion about a methadone clinic in Trinidad. And some of the discussion was to the extent that, well, if we got the thing running, and we don't know exactly how much that is, it would probably be located at their facility to minimize any disruptions to neighborhoods. But that they thought that they could do it on a sustainable basis with monies from Medicaid and from the state and from other federal sources. So we'll see. Anything to add on that?
It's a way to address the issues that we know are out there with opioids and with heroin and those kind of things, because all of the reports of what's happening in this county are pretty public. So if we can take a proactive step, I think we should at least look into it.
On Saturday, the 12th, the Urban Forestry Board planted successfully, Friday the 11th, I misspoke, successfully planted 20 trees at Central Park, which turned out to be a great success. I've already received a lot of compliments from people in the community about just how they're excited to see new growth and trees and a small little aesthetical improvement there in the park. The Parade of Lights is going to be going on Saturday, so I hope people are able to attend and vote for the Youth Club of Trinidad's float. That's in my throat. And then also, the Youth Club of Trinidad did recently receive a $3,900 grant from the Bar and Knife to help them build their greenhouse, which will be coming up. Our vocational workshop is almost done. All we need is our door to be implemented, and it's about ready to be stocked with the remaining portion of the grant that we received for that building, full of tools and things to start building blue-collar tradesmen again here in the community, and tradeswomen. And also we received a small, I think $500 local Walmart grant for the Youth Club of Trinidad as well, which will help out with any operational costs, especially since we do provide meals to our kids there. And so we receive another grant later from the Colorado Care and Share Initiative, which will hopefully come through next year for a hot meal program.
Excellent. It's off and running, isn't it?
Yeah.
Big time, big time.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Ms. Fletcher.
Veterans Day luncheon was very, very good, and food was delicious, well attended, I thought. Mayor said a few words of encouragement, and it was wonderful to see all the past servicemen that got recognized that day. It really kind of made my heart warm. And I echo what Carlos said, Hometown Holidays is presenting the Parade of Lights. This is the 18th year. I think we're going to have one of the bigger parades maybe this year. A lot of people are excited to do their floats and enter into the parade. Another different thing that's happening this year is the pre-parade with Fort Carson coming. They're going to bring a huge striker and 2 Humvees. I know I've said this before in council, but I'm pretty excited to see them myself. The kids can actually get around them and on them, they just can't drive them away. I think that's going to be a fabulous, fun event for the kids. Linda Barron is providing the food again for the people that come 3 to 5 on Saturday. This is a pre-parade event. After the pre-parade, everybody can kind of filter on over and get ready for the parade. So it's going to be a fun day. Oh, Friday night, lighting of the lights. Let's not forget that. Right outside here at City Hall. It's going to be great fun.
I'm glad you mentioned the time frame for that earlier.
And the lighting of the lights is 5:15. Parade starts at 6 on Saturday. Lighting of the lights Friday, 5:15.
Mr. McKay.
I have nothing quite as impressive as that which precedes me, but nonetheless real enthusiastic. If on your laptop or your tablet you don't find a delete key, it's Alt backspace.
I was wondering about that.
Big revelation.
Alt backspace.
Alt backspace.
How did you learn that?
I asked Monica, and she told me. Monica told me, I don't know. So Google works wonders. Alt backspacers and delete.
Good to know.
Man, tell me after 4 years.
I used to just go through the whole line.
Yeah, me too.
To get to my mistake, but now I don't have to do that.
I got a couple of things. One last week, I met with the new owners of XTO. Timber Creek, I got a gentleman's name that was there was Scott Zimmerman, and he had one of his people that's going, his operational manager was there. And just kind of updated us as to what they're doing. They purchased XTO outright. They are going to go in and, from what I understand, do some fracking this next year of existing wells. They may bring on another 5 or 6 people, additional people, from what I understand, this next year. That's kind of what they're thinking about. So at least it's adding a little bit of a few more guys, to the labor pool round. So that'd be nice to see that operation, because I think we've all been hearing rumors that XTO was on the market to sell, or flowers or whatever, and at least it sounds like their intention is to keep it running. So that's good to hear at this point in time. Also want to mention, yesterday I attended the Amtrak meeting again in Denver. And it was a pretty significant meeting. One of the things that we have to have some deliverables to the state representatives in the Colorado General Assembly by December the 1st this year. A few things that we have to do is we've submitted a grant for a Tiger grant for $25 million. That's going forward already. Also funding sources to implement extension of the Southwest Chief Service to Trinidad or to Pueblo, excuse me, and then of course down through here. Also to undertake a feasibility study to extend the Southwest Chief Service to Walsenburg. The other thing that we're going to be doing is we will probably next year we'll be doing some public outreach, because we want to get the public's opinion as to what they think about rail service. That's something that I think that's going to be coming forward from the commission. We also need to hire some staff, because we feel like the people that are there, they're all doing bits and pieces. So we need to get a staff, because we need a good director that understands how this whole thing is supposed to work. And of course, it'll probably be, I'm not sure how many staff members we'll have, we might have 1 or 2 at this point in time. But it's really important, because we're also looking at, there's been, and you brought this up, the Hyperloop. There's also a second company, a Hyperloop, but it's called Regal, that's interested in Colorado. And at first, they originally said that it was just supposed to be a private funded system. Now we think that at some point when they do, they will come after some of the tax dollars, and our concern is, will they take away some of the tax dollars from the rail system that we're trying to implement? So there's a little concern there. We may have to engage them and talk to them in the future to see where they're going, what their thoughts are. But anyway, this is something that these deliverables have to be done by December the 1st, which...
What does that mean?
These things that we have to, there's certain things that we have to, that was given to the commission that they have to provide by December 1st.
Like a grant application is...
The grant application and all this stuff to show that we're in process of the deliverables that they've asked us for. They're pretty much being accomplished and will be turned into the state by December 1st.
Can I add something under that Hyperloop? I wanted to tell you earlier that Sam Pace was interviewed on the news about the Hyperloop and the Southwest Chief, what kind of conflict that might have, and he said actually he looks at that welcoming the Hyperloop would be a nice asset for the Southwest Chief. So I thought that was interesting.
It could be, because I think what it'll do is it'll go from Fort Collins to Colorado Springs. As a matter of fact, I forget her last name is, but she's been getting calls from Hyperloop, because that's pretty much the destination point.
So they're going to stop at Colorado Springs? Originally it was to Pueblo.
I think right now it's Colorado Springs.
It was from Cheyenne.
I'm not sure if it's from Cheyenne. I know it's from Fort Collins down there. And the big thing is the number of stops. And of course, like they said, they can't stop every 10 minutes or 15 minutes, so it's going to be longer.
No, the Hyperloop is Cheyenne to Pueblo.
That's originally what was discussed.
They've changed it now?
Well, like I said, these are, all these things are up in the air.
Yeah, I know they're doing
It keeps changing.
they're doing a mini Hyperloop from Denver to Boulder, I think to kind of show we can do this, to make Denver stand out a little bit more from the other cities.
200 miles an hour from Boulder to Denver,
Yeah.
you'll be there in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Right, so I'm saying you'll be there in like 5
Well,
minutes.
they want to demonstrate that they
The
can
thing
do
that
it.
we need to do is we need to show that how this, upgrading the rail system down here and extending that service, how it's going to help the future transportation services that are going to be available to everybody in the state of Colorado, because I'm not sure if anybody's seen a projection that in the next 30 years, there'll be 3 million people, additional people in the state of Colorado. And right now, the congestion between Colorado Springs, Pueblo and Denver and Fort Collins, it's terrible.
People are moving.
And there needs to be some additional transportation services to the public, and that is the big thing right now. So we feel like we have a good opportunity to get to the federal government to help fund this as well. Sure. Reports by city manager.
Last Saturday, Councilmember Miles and I attended a homeowners association meeting, and I just wanted to let you know if there's any small groups that you would like me to attend those kind of meetings, I'm happy to do that and give updates to the public when it's convenient to them. I think it's, I said this afternoon, it's far better to go to people than expect them to come to you.
Good philosophy.
So I'm more than willing to do that. And then one of the things that came out of that meeting and then a follow-up meeting with Councilmember Matei is to occasionally do newspaper updates of what's happening with the city, so people can read those kind of things. And possibly produce a project maintenance matrix. I've done that before too, but you can keep track of what's going on.
That's it?
Yes.
Councilor.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. The first thing I want to say is the trees in Central Park look wonderful. I know I'm not the mayor of Central Park, but the trees look very nice, and kudos to everybody who did that. I want to emphasize publicly the reason why 7G, that item on the agenda, was passed upon is because it wasn't downloaded for whatever reason to your tablets. I don't want anyone to think there was some kind of ulterior motive or some kind of reason why. It's simply that the information that was going to be presented and talked about and acted on by you was not downloaded. So again, that's the only reason why that happened. I sent you guys a memo by way of email earlier in the week, and I told you I was going to give you a written copy tonight of the memo. And I'm sorry I didn't do that in my rush to prepare for hearings. I neglected to get you that memo, and I will do that for the next council meeting. I want to say goodbye to Jonathan. It's been a pleasure. All of staff thanks you and council, but it's been a pleasure. So good luck.
Any business up there, send them our way.
The last thing I want to say is, and I feel lessened by having to comment on that, and that is the earlier comment during this meeting about my facial expression. And I just want to say that I would never disrespect anyone in this room. And I was looking around, I think everybody knows me who was in this room. I would never disrespect any of you, especially you 7. So when I repeatedly draw comments on my facial expression, and I wasn't even looking at Councilman Bonanno at the time that I was supposedly smiling in response to a comment, I just want to say that if I was smiling and I don't even know, it certainly wasn't in response to anything you were saying. So that's all I have to say. Mayor, Council, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, item 10, executive session to discuss the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of real, personal, or other property interest under CRS section 24-6-402, 4A recreational land. Motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah.
I'll call the vote, please.
Benado,
Yes.
Fletcher,
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. We have a,
I didn't invite myself.
You'll be here tomorrow.
Next Wednesday.
Hey,
Where's my shirt?
We have to order new ones anyway, because they send your
Where am I?
how are you? How
life is good.
Yeah, it is. I don't know.
Very well.
You know, it's bittersweet. We have to leave things.
I'll see, I'll stop in for a drink. She was out for a while.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. That's right.
You guys know this guy's gonna be wearing a Bronco.
Yeah, we have a bet. We have a bet on the Bronco race.
Hey, what are you doing now?
Exactly.
Why was there to come up here? Nobody's perfect, Only Raiders
This is gonna be fun though.
And you got a little bike for Friday night.
You'll be driving
I mean,
marijuana,
Friday
so
night.
people say, is that commissioner
That
possibly
part.
driving? Right home.
forward.
That's right, that's right.
The house is on the corner, I want to say.
You bet.
Kansas.
My what?
If you go up to Kansas, go up 3
Should I?
We do
It's
have
the last house on the right.
Next
I'm gonna say 400. And there's like a canal there, it's
Yeah, I got plenty of time.
There
Oh,
you
yeah.
go.
This is a basic electrical circuit. This is how we are going to wire
The
a.
guy went in our
This is how we're going to install a
But it's better
light.
to
Little
listen
things
to
like
that.
that can get them into that trace and everything.
I presume it's been one,
This is a fairly boring meeting.
Tom, what was the
Yes.
name of the plumber
Because I
that died?
want second readings of ordinance.
Cancer.
Yes.
Lived in
I'm
Kansas.
glad
He
y'all
had
getting
that
all that
puppy
out
down
of
there
the
with
way
liquor
before
stores
I
now in
take
Kansas
some
and Arizona.
Well, at least we were the first reader.
I have the Hollywood bar.
Yes.
Oh, the big one?
I know who you're talking about.
Yes. I was here.
What the hell is his name?
So that's the only thing that made it bearable.
Anyway, he's been there for that house for a long time, so you know a lot of room.
Animated
There's like a
presentation.
ridge of canal there, you see some cars parked in the back. It's a big lot here, and then the house is right here, but you'll see the for
Well,
sale
at least
sign
we'll walk past
by the
the
government.
election day, we won't have
So
to
those
do
are
that
just
anymore.
pretty cheap,
No more.
aren't they?
I'm surprised it's so liquid.
I am always
Well, I think
It
you
was,
could
it
probably
was
get a
very
good buy
good.
on it.
I
And
think
is
the
there any
election
chance you
was
could
very
dredge up
good.
the old holidays parade of lights from last year and get something in the paper before?
So-
in the things?
It's
I was
already
gonna cut out, but, there's a
Was
good
it
chance
today?
whatever's happening
Right,
in the
but
executive session will come back in front.
So I had, this meeting is not going until next week.
Okay, can you come?
Well, I thank you. I hope y'all have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
You do, Korean?
Or you know what, Joy will. Joy's gonna be there.
One holiday
Okay.
that I look forward to turkey and dressing.
All right.
But I'll keep my eye open
The
there more
diet
for
full
everybody
force.
else.
Good, I appreciate that. Check that.
So we always, when I was living in New York, we'd always drive out to the.
All right, good to see ya. Take care.
It's more like New England.
Oh, yeah. And then you can have your
We at least have a fight.
Right. He's asking
That's all
Carlos, I'll be there. Guess we don't need it.
No, we're staying here.
Oh, we're staying here, okay.
No, I've actually seen this before. But that's more of a project, that's more it really is something. It really is something. Yeah, to get my buffers dry, sunny.